Happy November, folks. Welcome back to #AskGSM, episode 623 here today for Tuesday rather. I'm already on Wednesday. It's still Tuesday, though. November 4th, 2025. Hope you guys are doing well. Having a great month of November so far. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. Thank you for joining us either live or after the fact here on the show. I originally had the stream scheduled. Streams were last Friday and Halloween. I originally had the stream scheduled for around 11:30 Eastern time, but I said, fuck it. We're able to go live earlier today. Better than the opposite when I have it scheduled for a certain time and we go live later than expected. So not a bad problem to have. But we are here today answering your questions from Facebook, X, YouTube, sent in advance. But if you are joining us live, be sure to send in those questions in the chat. I'll answer them here on the episode. A few housekeeping things before we get going here, including shouting out our channel members. That includes Alexis, Miss Maud Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1, at Swerve1 on IG. Daniel Malcolm at I'm Quarter on X, Mr. Marceau at Mr. Marceau, or rather at RJ_Marceau on X. I'll be speaking to him again on Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. John Ritland, find him right here on YouTube. Real Honesty with John Ritland. Richie as well, Red Planet Wrestling on YouTube. And last but not least, Average Grunt at gruntwrestling.bluesky.social on Blue Sky. More information on how to become a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member for $5 a month, getting you shout-outs at the beginning and end of every single live stream that we do here on the channel. You also get top billing on shows like #AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio every Tuesday and Thursday, respectively. You get early and ad-free access to certain videos here on the channel, as well as badges and emojis in the live chats for these here live streams and so much more. So more information on that down below in the description box. I would appreciate you checking that out. If you want to send in a question ahead of time for this very show, you can tweet me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the #AskGSM. You can find me on Facebook as well, facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Drop a comment on the post I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, drop your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. And I think that's about it. If you also want to check out our store as well, November marks 15 years that I have been doing WrestleRant as a channel, as a website, really the whole brand. I didn't start using the WrestleRant name here on YouTube until like 2011 for a show that I was doing at the time. But the website, WrestleRant.com, started 15 years ago this month, originally as Next Era Wrestling, and now WrestleRant.com. Been an incredible journey so far. If you want to support the journey, support what we do here on the channel, on the website, and everything else in general, check out our t-shirt store, ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. Let me see if I can pull up a picture of the t-shirt here. Let's see, shirt to, I forgot to load it ahead of time. I'll show you a picture of what you can buy right now on ProWrestlingTees.com. There it is. There's the shirt. WrestleRant, as designed by Alexis herself. A snazzy-looking shirt. A number of people already own it. You, too, can own a WrestleRant shirt right now and celebrate 15 years of the show, of the website, of the WrestleRant brand by buying your shirt over at ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. And if you do, let me know. We'll shout you out here on the show, on the channel, on social media, whatever. Throw you a follow or whatever it might be. Be sure to let me know. I would greatly appreciate the support. And you can also be walking around with one of these shirts if you win the Royal Rumble game when we bring that back in a couple of months. Before then, though, one of my favorite parts of the final few months of the year, I should mention this ahead of time. We have the Year in Review Awards from WWE and AEW. We've been doing it annually on WrestleRant Radio since 2013. For as long as I've been doing the podcast, we've been doing Year in Review Awards over on the show. Myself and Mr. Marceau breaking down the best and worst of the year from both companies. And it's changed over the years. It's included WWE and TNA, just WWE, WWE and NXT, WWE and AEW. And that's what it is now, WWE and AEW. And we're going to be celebrating the year that was 2025, really reviewing the entire year and having you guys vote on what the best match was, the wrestler of the year for both companies, the best women's wrestler, and so much more. When we open up the polls next month, it should be at the very beginning of December. Now, the fun part about WrestleRant Radio being live now every single Thursday is that we can reveal the results of the polls right here on the show itself. Not on #AskGSM, but on WrestleRant Radio on Thursdays. That will be the final WrestleRant Radio of the year. So we have that to look forward to coming up. in the final few months of 2025, specifically in December. The polls will open. Unless I change the way the process works, what I'm aiming on doing is having the polls open next month, early next month on WrestleRant.com. You can vote, and then we'll go through all the results and review the year that was WWE and AEW in 2025. And we'll be doing that on the final WrestleRant radio of the year. So a lot to look forward to here on the show. We also still have Survivor Series coming up full gear in a couple of weeks and so much more. So like I said, support the show, like this video, subscribe. Be sure to hit that notification bell to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel on Tuesdays and Thursdays specifically for hashtag AskGSM and WrestleRant Radio and the occasional random live stream as well, so you can keep an eye out for that. But yeah, be sure to check out that shirt. I'll take that off the stream for the time being, but that is available over at ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. Link also available in the description box down below. And I'm sure they're going to be doing a Black Friday deal in a couple of months. You can get a sale on that t-shirt if you buy it during Black Friday. All right, guys. So we'll get going with the questions here in a second and see who is joining us here in the chat. Damn, we had a whole bunch of people just show up out of nowhere. Zork, what's going on? He said, is it time to sell my LA Knight stock? It might be, to be honest with you. It might be. For the simple reason being that I am not convinced they will ever put a world championship on this man. And every week that passes, that he is being booked like shit the way that he is, it fucking pisses me off. I mean, I'm not even really sure what you would have done with him on Raw last night, but after seeing what they did at Saturday night's main event, why the fuck was it Jey Uso in that spot and not LA Knight? If Jey Uso is not walking away the new World Heavyweight Champion, nor should he have, especially after that terrible performance he had in that match on Saturday. We'll talk more about that on Thursday's WrestleRant Radio with RJ. Why not just do Punk and LA Knight? They clearly were protecting Knight for a reason when they did that number one contenders triple threat match coming out of Crown Jewel last month, and LA Knight was not the one pinned, Jey Uso was. LA Knight could have very easily won the Battle Royal the following week to go on to face Punk at Saturday night's main event. They could have had a great promo battle. Unless they're specifically saving Knight and Punk for Mania, which I am not convinced they're doing, and they do not see that as a money match, then why not just do Knight and Punk at Saturday night's main event? Get it over with. It's very clear we're not getting Punk and Knight. Punk and Logan Paul, okay, like as a match, it's fresh. It could be a really good match. The promos could be fun. Logan Paul's done nothing to earn the opportunity aside from knocking out Punk last night. Okay, whatever. Jey Uso, I'm kind of sick of seeing him in that spot for right now. LA Knight should have been in that match at Saturday night's main event, even if he didn't win. Even if he did not win. Still pisses me off. He also said, why would a wrestler in kayfabe care about retiring Cena? So, good question. Daniel, shout out to Daniel, also texted me this the other day. And I can understand the criticism. But you have the opportunity to face, and not only face, but beat what WWE claims to be one of, if not the greatest of all time. Now, to face Cena on his retirement tour at all would be an honor. And that's a big thing that a lot of people have wanted to be a part of. In storyline and out of storyline, a lot of people have wanted to work with Cena. But like I said, being able to face him and beat him in his last match ever is a very big deal. Now, even just beating him in general during this retirement tour, like Cody Rhodes beating him at SummerSlam, is a nice nod for Cody Rhodes. But being the person to retire John Cena, when we know John Cena is retiring regardless, this isn't like a surprise, like, oh, if he loses, he's gone regardless. But being able to be that person to hand Cena his final loss and his final ever match is something that could get talked about, if booked properly, for years to come. Something that they could never shut up about. Like the same way, and it's not nearly as big of an honor, but the same way they boasted about Brock Lesnar ending the Undertaker's streak, which was way more impressive, obviously. I mean, he went undefeated at WrestleMania for over 20 fucking years. They did not let that go for how many years? Like 10 fucking years they would boast about that. Brock Lesnar ending the undefeated streak. They will not do the same thing with John Cena. But if it's the person I think it's going to be, and that's Gunther going in there and beating John Cena in his final match in the same calendar year he handed Goldberg his final loss and his final match ever is a pretty big fucking deal. And Goldberg, or rather Gunther, is already a made man, so it's not even really benefiting him, but I feel like he's a worthy recipient because that's also a match we've never seen before. So just to answer your question, I mean, already, even out of storyline, there's so many people that want to retire John Cena, let alone in storyline. Give me Backshot, Solomonster, the best fucking chat name of all time. I say that every week. What's going on, man? He says, Graham, sup? I like the Jade over Tiffany squash. However, next time Tiff goes for the world title, she needs to be a full-blown heel. She's popular, but she's not a believable babyface at all. No, she's not a believable babyface. I like Tiffany as a babyface. She's a way better heel. She's a much more natural heel. I like the move to make her a babyface earlier this year because she was already getting cheered in her segments with Nia Jax. People wanted to cheer her when she cashed in Money in the Bank. And it looked like the original plan was to have her as the heel against Charlotte, who would be the babyface. The fans completely flipped out because they did not like Charlotte winning the Rumble and going on to Mania to challenge Tiffany, although I thought that was the match that always made sense. The dynamic was better when they flipped the roles, with Tiffany having to prove herself against Charlotte. And they just stuck with Tiffany as a babyface. Now, her promos as a babyface are not great, and it's not even as if she was the greatest heel on the roster anyway. But she was organically already over with the audience. So honestly, I've had no issue with them making her the top babyface on that brand, especially while Charlotte and Alexa have been the women's tag team division. You've had Bianca Belair out injured. Nia Jax is their top heel. They've had other heels in that division. They should turn Tiffany at some point. It should be no time soon. They literally just turned Jade, and I think Bianca should also be a heel at some point. Now, we've talked about that extensively. I don't know when that happens. I still think it will, inevitably. You're not turning Tiffany anytime soon. Could they move her to Raw at some point and turn her heel and make her the top heel in that division? Very possible. I would not be surprised. But time will tell. Fernando, what's going on, my man? He said, Buenos dias, WrestleRant. Sorry, I'm late. I thought you were coming live at 11:30. I was supposed to, like I said. I had these streams scheduled for 11:30, and then I went live earlier because I'm like, fuck it, we got the time. We're available early, so let's go live early so I can be done earlier. So we're not sitting here for 3 hours as we normally are, and I'm here at 2 o'clock Eastern. So you never really know when the show might be live, which is why it's always important to have the notifications on. Usually it is around 11 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesdays and Thursdays, or noon, or 1 p.m. Sometimes with Mr. Marceau, we go live on Thursdays for WrestleRant Radio at like 8 a.m., 8:30 a.m. Eastern time. So you just never really know, but I appreciate you joining us regardless, Fernando. He said, what grade do you give Saturday night's main event? Good question. Probably a B. That might be generous, but I thought the show was good. It had to have been the best Saturday night's main event they've done yet. I think the first one was fun. I was at that one. I'm biased, but I thought they did a great job of capturing the old school throwback feel with the opening video package, the graphics, the overall ambiance in the arena that night, having the legends and Jesse Ventura and the getup and the attire and everything. They kind of moved away from that. At least for this Saturday night's main event. I don't remember if they did that for the Goldberg one. I don't think Ventura was at that one either. But they kind of moved away from the throwback feel of Saturday night's main event on Saturday from this past weekend, which was kind of a bummer. Genuinely, I did not notice it in the moment until I realized after the fact that Jesse was not there and they didn't really go full throttle with it the same way they have in the past. But from a booking standpoint and in-ring standpoint, I thought it was a good show. The pacing was way better than any of the other SNMEs. I think it's a lot easier just to call it Saturday Night's Main Event. It's a fucking mouthful, but it's easier than saying SNMEs. The pacing was a lot better because they were exclusively on Peacock. It didn't have to deal with the NBC commercials and being cut off early and all this other bullshit. It was basically just a mini PLE. That's really what it was. But you had 4 matches, all of which got pretty good time. Tiffany and Jade was a squash as it should have been. I like Cody and Drew. It was better than the WrestlePalooza match. I hated the fucking finish. I thought that was garbage. The main event I did not like. It actually was the opposite of Cody and Drew in that the booking I liked with Punk winning clean and becoming the new World Heavyweight Champion. But the match itself I did not. I thought Punk and Jey Uso was not a good match. But overall, I thought it was a good show. He had a new World Heavyweight Champion crown, Jade winning the title. Drew should have won the championship as well, but whatever. And I thought the 3-way for the Intercontinental Championship was also fun while it lasted. Thank you, Zork. He said, congrats, Graham. I appreciate that. Johnny said, his main event push is far from done. Neat. Neat or yeet? I think you meant to say yeet. Talking about Jey Uso, our headline question for today's video. Talking about Jey Uso's main event push. Is it over or is it not? We'll talk about that a little bit later on. The ratings for Saturday night's main event was brutal, Fernando said. What were the ratings? When did the ratings even come out? Because the only ratings that would be available if you're talking about the other Saturday night main events they've done on NBC, then yes, I know what you're talking about. If you were talking about Peacock, then they don't have those numbers available most of the time. But on NBC, the ratings probably were not what they were expecting. I don't know if I would call them brutal, but the ratings probably weren't what they were expecting. If they were so high, they would have kept the shows on NBC. The whole fucking point of bringing back Saturday Night's Main Event was to make it an annual, or rather quarterly, television special. And they already have enough PLEs. We don't need more PLEs. That's basically what we got on Saturday, though. It was like a glorified house show. It was like a step above your usual episode of Raw. And it was a fine show. It was a good show. But again, if you want to do more PLEs, we already have enough PLEs as it is. We don't really need more PLEs. To me, the whole point of bringing back Saturday Night's Main Event was to capitalize on the exposure that WWE has right now. Excuse me. Capitalize on the exposure and the popularity of the product, which seems to be waning, but that's a whole other issue we'll talk about on Thursday. And kind of get the product in front of an all-new audience and potentially create new viewers and hook people in. Seemingly that was not the case, because now they're just exclusively on Peacock, which does make for better shows, but as far as what the whole point of the specials were kind of brought back for, defeats the purpose in my opinion. Johnny said, can't wait to see your year-end awards. I appreciate that, Johnny. And it's not just like what I think is the match of the year, what I think is the wrestler of the year, who I think is the wrestler of the year. It's what you guys vote on. So I will start plugging it at the end of this month and in early December. I will start talking about it more and giving you guys the link for where you can go to vote on the year and review awards that we will be reviewing here on the show at the end of 2025, the episode right after Christmas. Now, I don't know what we're doing the Christmas and New Year's because the show falls on Christmas. We typically record WrestleRant radios every Thursday, and the show falls on Christmas itself and on New Year's this year. We are not going live on Christmas or New Year's. I don't know if we'll pre-record the show or just do it on Friday of the respective days. I'm not exactly sure yet what we're doing, but keep an eye out for that. Let's see. Fernando said, Jey Uso performed like trash on Saturday night. Punk had to carry him for the whole match. That's what it kind of looked like to me. I mean, it's not like Punk went in there and had this amazing showing either. Like, his spear on Jey looked like shit. Jey Uso hitting a fucking GTS. This is why the whole finisher fest thing is getting so overdone, and it's not really my cup of tea at this point. They got to stop doing it because it just doesn't mean as much, and it waters down the matches that they're doing it in, and it creates situations like what we got on Saturday where the match just sucked. So they really did not work well together at all. They've worked well together as partners. We've seen that on Raw, including last night. As opponents, not so much. And Jey had a terrible performance, which is why we're asking the question, is Jey Uso's main event push indeed over? We'll talk about that a little bit later on. Let me backtrack a little bit here. Johnny said, don't forget to have hardcore match and hardcore wrestler of the year. We are not indeed doing that category, but if you want to come up with that on your own, Johnny, feel free. Be my guest. Zorik said, what was wrong with Jey in that match? You could see Punk getting mad. I have no idea. I'm not going to sit here and say Jey was drunk or high or whatever. I don't think it was anything like that. I think Jey just had a bad night. He gets gassed very easily. He has talked about this publicly before, including on that Unreal show a few months ago. And I like Jey. He's gone in there and had some really good matches. I thought the Gunther matches were largely good. But that match with Punk, he had an off night. I'm not going to sit here and say Jey is a terrible wrestler. He's not. He has a very limited moveset, but he's good enough where he's gone in there and had some quality matches in the past. But he's had other matches that were fucking stinkers, and that we had that on Saturday. So I don't know what was wrong with Jey specifically in that match. You'd have to ask him himself. But at the same time, he was asked about the Jimmy Uso match and why that match didn't really exactly live up to fans' expectations. I think the layout of that match was worse than either of their respective performances, but Jey responded and said, oh, it's because we didn't have enough time or whatever. It's like, no, that was not the issue, Jey. It's because your movesets are so similar, and you try to create this melodramatic atmosphere for the match, this vibe, this dynamic, and it didn't exactly vibe at all, and it really kind of made for a shitty match. So, a very mediocre match at Mania last year. Fernando asked, top 5 Punk World Championship victories and top 5 Saturday main event matches. I can't speak to the top 5 Saturday night main event matches because I have not seen most of them, of the old ones. When I first started watching WWE in 2008, they had one in August of 2008. I think I watched it not live, but after the fact. I think I did record it, if I remember correctly. I think I watched it after the fact. But anyway, so I really can't speak to like the old Saturday night main events because I haven't seen almost all of them. I've watched the first one. I watched the one from 2008, and I've seen all the ones they've done in the time they've brought back the concept. In the time since they provided the concept, I'm not really sure what the match would be, what the best matches would be, because a lot of these matches are shorter. I thought Cody and Kevin had a pretty good match at last year's first one, last December. I thought the Goldberg match was fine. It was well done, but it wasn't like a great match. But I thought it was a well done retirement match. Trying to think of what else. They had a Braun Breaker Sheamus match that was really good back in January that I thought was good for the Intercontinental Championship. I'm sure they've had other ones that I just can't remember right now, but those were the top ones for me. As far as top 5 Punk World Championship victories, I mean, he hasn't had that many world championships to be. I mean, he's had a lot of world titles, but, he's had like 10. You're really only counting 5. So, for me, his top 5 world championship victories, I didn't really love when he beat Hangman for the title in 2022. I thought it was the right call. I was happy to see him win the belt, but the match was not great. They really weren't on the same page for obvious reasons, as we know now. So I wouldn't say that one. To me, the number one for me was when he won the world championship the first time in WWE. Actually, that's not true. There's one that's better. But one of my favorite world championship wins for Punk was when he won the world title for the first time in WWE. He cashed in Money in the Bank on that June 30th, 2008 Raw. I'll never forget it. I had friends over that night for a sleepover. I was in 8th grade. We were having a sleepover. It was like school ended the week prior. I was not watching Raw live. My younger brother, who had just started watching wrestling with me a few months prior when I started watching as well, he ran downstairs and said, CM Punk just cashed in Money in the Bank. He won the world title. I was so fucking pissed. He spoiled that for me and ruined it for me. I don't think he's been a fan since then. I think he kind of largely stopped watching wrestling after I ruined that moment for him. After he, I don't think he ever watched Raw on his own after that. But it was a great moment, though. I look back on that moment fondly. Number 1 was when he won the world title, the WWE title of Money in the Bank 2011. That moment will never be topped, to me, as far as world championship wins for Punk. So that would be 1. The one I just mentioned, when he cashed in Money in the Bank the first time, would be 2. He cashed in Money in the Bank again a year later. I thought that was well done. I was not watching live. When he won the title from Jeff Hardy at SummerSlam, I thought that was cool. They had a great match. That might be 3. I didn't watch his Ring of Honor world title win, so I can't really speak to that. He won the WWE title again, obviously at Survivor Series 2011. That would also be in my top 5. Maybe I'll put the Moxley one from 2022 up there because I thought they had a great match at least at All Out 2022, although it was quickly overshadowed by the Brawl Out controversy and the post-show press conference and whatnot in 2022. So it might be those. I mean, I enjoyed his world title win on Saturday. And it's on SummerSlam, too. I thought his world title win at SummerSlam. I was there for that one when he beat Gunther. That was a great match. I thought that match was excellent. So that might actually round out my top 5. But, everyone's order might be different. Johnny said, which Bad Blood is better? Homelander versus Starlight or Homelander versus Billy Butcher? From The Boys, for those unaware. I would probably go Homelander and... I feel like there's more of an emotional connection there with Billy Butcher because, he has his son. It's not Billy's actual son. It is Homelander's son. But, that was Billy's, adopted son for a while. I think Billy's wife died because of Homelander or the woman from the first season. I forgot her name. But you know who I'm talking about. I might go Billy Butcher. Starlight, I am kind of tempted to say her, but I feel like she has a major issue with Homelander, obviously, and he's done a lot of nasty shit to her, too. But I feel like her bigger issue is with the entire 7. The whole 7 and Vogue or whatever the fucking company is, as opposed to just Homelander. So I'll go Billy Butcher. Fernando said, do I think Logan joined the Vision? I don't. I think they just did that to set up War Games. I'm not really a fan of that personally. I think it feels forced to me that we're still doing this War Game shit. I mean, Logan Paul's been gone for months. He has no connection with any of these men. If they want to set up Punk, if they set up Punk and Paul for a Survivor Series, I would have no issue with that. I mean, actually I do, because Logan Paul's done nothing to earn the opportunity. The last time we saw him on television, he fucking lost to John Cena at Clash in Paris over 2 months ago. So I actually do have an issue with it, but that would make more sense than doing War Games. I mean, I know the Vision have issues with Punk and the Usos and Roman and Knight and whatever, but the Vision have to recruit 3 people. Logan Paul is 1. Who are they going to get? I mean, Brock Lesnar I can kind of see. But if they recruit Austin Theory, as was the original plan, even before Rollins got hurt, That still made no fucking sense. I thought it was dumb even then. Johnny said, can't wait to see your ranking of the multi-person steel cage matches this month. No thanks. Johnny said, Braun Breaker would be a great option to retire John Cena. I would be fine with that. It's not going to happen. It seems like Breaker's more focused on the World Championship right now and there's stuff going on Raw with CM Punk and whatever. So I don't think Breaker faces John Cena during this retirement tour. I would have been cool with that, but it doesn't look like it's going to happen. Zork said, Baron Corbin gained nothing from retiring Kurt Angle. Well, one, that was a different regime. Two, the match was not great at all. And three, it's Baron fucking Corbin. I like Baron Corbin, but Baron Corbin, by 2019, was never going to be a world champion. They immediately buried him. Granted, he did go on to challenge for the world championship that year and win King of the Ring. He was never really going to benefit long term. Baron Corbin should have never retired Kurt Angle. And the only reason he even retired Kurt Angle was because it was never Vince's idea to have Baron retire Kurt Angle. It was Kurt Angle's idea to retire at WrestleMania that year because he did not feel he could go on for another year. So because Vince always had Baron versus Kurt Angle planned, which they'd already done a time or two before that, and Baron already beat Kurt, so it didn't really even make much of a fucking difference. But anyway, so they did it again at WrestleMania, and it was only just ever supposed to be Baron beating Angle. And then they would move on, and Angle would retire the following year. Thankfully, he didn't, honestly. I mean, him retiring against Baron sucked because it just amounted to nothing. But if Kurt Angle did indeed get his way, or Vince got his way and Kurt waited a year, because Kurt was like, I want to retire against John Cena, it would have happened in front of no fans. So honestly, in a way, it kind of worked out. Because if what would I have rather had happen? Kurt Angle retiring in front of no fans or in front of fans at WrestleMania in a shitty match? Probably the former. Undertaker retired in front of no fans, but at least that was a cinematic match, and the match was honestly awesome between him and AJ Styles. So I would say for Angle, oddly enough, it kind of worked out. But you're right, Baron Corbin gained nothing, but that's WWE's fault, and it wasn't even really something they ever really planned to begin with. Johnny said Roman should have been the one to end the undefeated streak, and that would have been a great way to turn him heel back in the early 2010s, but he did not end the streak, and they did not turn him heel until years later, so 2 mistakes were made. Zork said Gunther should make Cena tap if that's the route. I would love to see it. I don't think it's going to happen. I think if John Cena was going to tap, it should have happened while he was a heel because he never gives up. It would be awesome if he finally gave up in his final match, but I feel like that would kind of go against the character of Cena. Then again, everything he did as a babyface, or rather as a heel, went against what he ever really said as a babyface, and that entire heel run was a complete waste of fucking time for the most part, just as far as the execution of it beyond the initial turn. So yeah, I would like to see him tap. I don't think he will. I could see John Cena, I'll level with you. I could see John Cena passing out. I don't think he taps out, but I could see him passing out. Fernando said a tournament to decide a championship, not to decide a championship, he said, but just to wrestle a person is very lame. Why not just have someone call him and do a story out of it? I actually completely disagree. I feel like that would be incredibly fucking lame. If Gunther were to just come out and say, I challenged John Cena for his final match, there's no story there. We see that shit all the time. We saw that with him and AJ Styles, where I loved the match at Crown Jewel. They announced it on fucking social media. I mean, that story was super lame. We've had other people like Logan Paul come out and call out Cena and say, I want a piece of you during your retirement tour. We've seen that ad nauseum this year. You need to make this different and make it feel special. This accomplishes a few different things. One, we're going to get matches we've never seen before. Already next week, we've seen Sheamus and Nakamura once, but that should be good. Rusev and Damian Priest, they've never done before. We're getting interpromotional matches at a time where Raw and SmackDown need the injection of an excitement. They've also teased that people who don't work here could be in the tournament. It's not fucking Edge, and it's probably not Chris Jericho, so let's stop with that nonsense. Most likely, it will be people from TNA, maybe AAA. I feel like that would be a waste. We know no one from AAA is winning this tournament. Unless it was like Vikingo. I mean, he's not winning, but like Vikingo maybe being in it would be okay. Alberto Del fucking Rio is not going to be in the tournament either. He doesn't even work for AAA anymore. But anyway, I could see people from TNA like Joe Hendry, Matt Cardona, Nick Nemeth, Jeff Hardy. Any of those guys I feel like would be logical picks to put in the tournament for like one match. Maybe not all 4 of them, but maybe like Cardona. And I was going to tweet this, but I'll say it now, and I was thinking about this earlier. They're doing NXT Gold Rush, night 1, I think, from MSG. Now, not the usual arena that Raw's in, but I think the same smaller part of MSG that they did Roadblock in back in March. So, with that being said, if they're going to be in New York for that night one of the NXT Gold Rush show, because they're doing it 2 weeks in a row, it's not this week, it's not next week. I think it's in, it honestly might start next week. I don't remember, but I'm pretty sure it's in 2 weeks from today it starts. But regardless, you could put Matt Cardona in a match in the tournament on that fucking show. They'll be in New York anyway. He's already wrestled on NXT. He faced Josh Briggs a couple weeks ago. Granted, he lost, which was stupid, but he can be in the tournament and face someone from NXT or TNA on that show. I feel like that'd be perfect because they're going to be in New York anyway. He'll get a great reaction. That would be a lot of fun. And he has history with John Cena dating back well over a decade. They also faced each other in John Cena's U.S. Open Challenge back in 2015. I would love to see that. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. But anyway, so with this tournament, you fill up time. You get fresh matches. It gives Raw and SmackDown something to look forward to. I mean, what a concept, right? Because right now there's not a whole lot to look forward to on Raw and specifically SmackDown. I think there's some good stuff on the shows right now. For the most part right now, SmackDown is not a great show. Raw is, I enjoyed last night's show. I thought it was good. Kind of hit or miss most weeks. A lot of the same stuff. This switches things up. But it makes it an important occasion. It already feels important. John Cena's final match already feels important. But this is way more creative and something we've never seen before. And it's John fucking Cena. Like, what part of that don't people understand? This is not like Akira Tozawa. More on him later, but no disrespect to Akira. It's one of the greatest of all time. Who would not want to face this man in his final match? Who would not want to beat John Cena in his final match and carry that accolade for the rest of their career? You know what I mean? Like, it makes complete sense to me. I actually really like the idea. I'm actually kind of surprised there's as many people as there is who don't like the idea. Having someone just call out Cena, I think would be so fucking lame. We see that shit all the time. Every fucking week we see that stuff. John Cena comes out next week, he gets interrupted. We've seen that all year. This is something different. I'm not going to complain about getting something different, and it has the potential, quite honestly, to be a lot of fun. Johnny said, I hear Triple H is going to book Tiffany Stratton versus Andrea Bizarte at WrestleMania. I don't know who that is, so I can't comment on that. Fernando said, who should be next for Jade? I still say Bianca is the Mania match if she ever comes back. Next, they're probably going to run back the Tiffany match again. We've already seen it 3 times. We're bound to get it a 4th. Whatever. Beyond that, I think they'll probably run back Jade and Tiffany, maybe at Survivor Series. Jade should win, obviously. After Tiffany, I'm not really sure, because you have Julia, who is teasing going for the championship, but she's a heel. Chelsea Green is a SmackDown match. I like Chelsea, but I'm sorry, that's a SmackDown match. Jade and Nia, we've already seen, plus they're both heels at this point, so no. I would say probably Charlotte or Alexa Bliss. I know they're the current women's tag team champions. They could lose those belts before then. But regardless, I could totally see that being one of the matches. Either Jade versus Alexa, and that leads into Jade versus Charlotte. But yeah, I think any of those matches would be fine. I'm not sure who else is on SmackDown that would make sense. Like Michin or B-Fab, God forbid, no thanks. It would have to be either Charlotte or Alexa, unless they get someone new coming up from NXT. Johnny said, as a hardcore fan, I think John and Darby should take a break from hardcore matches. John Moxley and Darby Allin, I agree. Will they? Probably not. We have fucking Blood and Guts coming up next week, so that's obviously not going to happen just yet. Tony Khan should put his foot down and say no hardcore shit for the time being. That's not going to happen, though. Zork said Tiffany lost her title and her boyfriend allegedly. That's tough. LOL. Yeah, I saw a video or a tweet yesterday saying that I saw... there was a video I saw of Kaiser as an Americano, obviously, walking hand in hand with a woman backstage at a AAA show. And I think it was actually someone that he was interviewed by at a AAA show not too long ago. I haven't seen any pictures of Kaiser and Tiffany together in a while. She was doing TikToks with them for a while. So I would say, I don't follow either of them on Twitter or Instagram, so I can't really speak to... I haven't seen any pictures. But I was seeing TikTok videos they were doing together not that long ago. It was this year, definitely after the Charlotte shit. I mean, they would not have mentioned that Kaiser line in that promo back in March if they weren't still dating at that point. So it does sound like they're done. Not that it's really any of our business, but it does sound like they might have indeed broken up. Fernando said the ticket for Saturday Night Main Event, and yes, and I did say S&M by accident instead of SNME. But anyway, Fernando said the tickets for Saturday Night Main Event were at a low. Should it still be a thing? If they're just going to be glorified PLEs, no. No, and it's not even just Saturday Night's Main Event. SmackDown's attendance was not great last week. The crowd last night for Raw sounded great. They were in New Mexico, but it was a smaller crowd. It was like 6,000 to 7,000 people. No meme intended there by saying 6,000 to 7,000. But they sounded great. Like, it's kind of the AEW effect where you can't sell out the bigger buildings at this point. The product is waning. The popularity is kind of dying down a little bit. That hot streak they were on was bound to die out eventually. Plus, they were pricing people out to an extreme degree. That was, again, bound to happen on the Sooner side regardless. They can have smaller arenas, smaller crowds, and they can be fucking lively. Honestly, the worst of the worst was when they had shit crowds like 6-7 years ago. Again, no meme intended. Back in 2018, 2019, they had shit crowds, and the crowds they had fucking sucked. Like, if we can get loud crowds, but they're smaller, that's kind of key. I mean, loud, and a lot of people in the crowd, and they're loud is great too, obviously. But if they're pricing people out, that's probably not realistic anymore. If they're pricing people out, if they can bring the prices back down, but we have more people in the buildings, or even what we've had in the last couple of days, where it's like 6,000 to 7,000, and they're loud, to me, that's all that really matters. They could put 2,000 people in there. They could put 5,000. I mean, obviously makes a difference, the amount of people that they put in the building. They can't be doing 500 people. Oh, they're loud, so it's okay. Okay, not necessarily. I'm not saying that. But I'm just saying, like, 6,500 people for Raw is not that big of a deal. I kind of care more as a viewer. That's a great number. Not as great as what they were doing a year ago to 6 months ago. That's definitely an issue and something worth talking about, which we'll get to on Thursday's WrestleRant Radio. But if they're loud, then I really don't care. And if the shows are fun, I don't give a shit. Zork said, I'm not interested in Drew getting another title match. They should have just put the belt on him Saturday. I agree. I don't think you're alone in feeling that way. I don't give a fuck about Drew getting another shot. If he even wins at Survivor Series, and there's no guarantee he would, what does it even mean at this point? It would be nice if he did, but I think we've reached the point where people do not give a shit. He's already lost twice to Cody Rhodes since September. He's got to fucking win, and he didn't. He lost like an idiot again. He was made to look like a moron again. It's not third time's the charm. That could work maybe if you're a babyface. I feel like it's worse when you're a heel. When you talk all this shit and you fucking lose every time. As a babyface, I can kind of get it. The heel cheats. The babyface cheated. Although Drew was the one that introduced the chair into the match. It makes him look like a loser that lacks credibility. Fernando asked, how was your Halloween? It was great. Thank you for asking. We went to Salem, Mass. I mentioned that last week here on the show, which I've been to on Halloween before a few times. It was great. It was busy. A lot of travel on the way up and long road trip on the way back, but it was fun. We were there for a few hours. It got really fucking cold, but I did get recognized a few different times for dressing as CM Punk. I did not think I would. Alexis went as John Cena for Halloween, and her costume is much more apparent as far as the gear that she had on and the hat and whatever. I legitimately was just dressed the way that I normally do. And I did that partially for comfort and partially because I didn't really want to buy a costume. I wasn't going to go out there wearing fucking tights or whatever, kick pads. I'm not going to go buy kick pads or wear tights or whatever. God forbid if that ever happens. I just wore jeans, my 2011 CM Punk t-shirt, a CM Punk hat, and a CM Punk sweatshirt. And I got a couple compliments, which was cool. Over the course of the night, not just all from like the same group of people or whatever. So that was nice. Any other day of the year, no one will give a shit because that's my normal attire and people just... it wasn't even... I was going as CM Punk for Halloween, but I was also just going as a mark for CM Punk. That was also kind of my costume. Johnny said... Let me backtrack a little bit here. A lot of people here in the chat. I appreciate you guys joining. I'll try to get through everything as quickly as possible because I see a lot of... I see a lot of chats here. Let's see. Who would you have put in that WrestleMania 42 promo video? I think a lot of the same names. Honestly, I would take out Brock and put in Rhea Ripley. I agree with what people have said. Bianca's not even really active right now, so her being in there doesn't really matter to me. She hasn't been around since Mania this year. All the people that are in there are big stars. I saw people complaining about Randy Orton. Who cares? Randy Orton's a big star, but he's not like one of the core guys anymore. He hasn't been in a very long time. He should be in the WWE title picture soon, but he's not one of the core guys. Like Drew is also not one of the core guys. He's just not. The guys they had in that promo package were the 4 core guys, except for Brock. Brock, I don't know why the fuck he was in there. I mean, I know they see a lot of money in Brock, and he's a draw. He's really not as much anymore, as much as he once was. I would have taken Brock out of there and put in Rhea Ripley, or at least one of their top females. I mean, Jade just won the title. She's not as big of a star as Rhea, but she's on her way. Io Sky's amazing, but she's not as big of a draw as Rhea. You know, Bianca's a big star, but she's kind of out right now. So I would have put Rhea in there with Punk and Cody and Roman. But God forbid we mess up our all-men video package or whatever, so whatever. Yeet is yes, and I made up neat for no. Oh, okay, that makes sense, Johnny. Zork said, what do you think it will take for TKO to lower prices, for their business to crash? And I'm not even saying WWE will die tomorrow, nor should they. What I'm saying is, it will take the buildings being half fucking empty and more shows like that and people not buying tickets for them to eventually... for them to eventually lower the ticket prices and back to what they were, to make it more family friendly. They literally just made the comment about why they think it makes sense to raise the ticket prices. And listen, it's not just WWE. Every company, everything in the world is more expensive today than it was 6 months or a year ago. I get it. That's the world that we live in nowadays. I understand that. But WWE's ticket prices are egregious. For a product that's good, but not that fucking good, where they're but the thing is, with any business, if you're charging that amount and people are buying it, why would they lower the prices? Until people stop buying it. That's the difference. And we're slowly, if not quickly, reaching that point where people will not be buying their tickets to their shows because they're just way too fucking expensive. If 10 to 20% of their audience says, this is too expensive, but the other 80% are like, I don't care about spending thousands of dollars on tickets, I'm going to do it anyway, WWE, TKO will not change anything. But when it starts to turn into 30, 40, 50% of their audience, the people that would go to these shows do not go because it is too expensive, and they're dealing with half-empty buildings, like I said, that's not a great situation to find yourself in. And I think only then would they even consider the idea of making them slightly cheaper. I don't think that's happening anytime soon. TKO works a lot differently than Vince McMahon did or the previous regime did. I also don't think their approach works the same way for WWE that it does for UFC. UFC is, to my knowledge, not really a hot product at all, but people will still go to their shows, and it's just a different demographic too. I don't know. It's just not the same thing. Fernando said, trade Rhea to SmackDown for Tiffany on Raw. I like that trade. Rhea's got to finish out her story with Io and the Kabuki Warriors. I mean, I guess she just won at Crown Jewel. But they are building. Rhea has not been on the show since the Kabuki Warriors took her out a few weeks ago. So they got to finish that story. They don't have to have Rhea beat Io, to be honest with you. They really don't. They can hold on to that for like another year or two if they want to, if not longer than that. I don't care if she beats her anytime soon. They don't have to have her beat her anytime soon. It's just more so her finishing out the feud with the Kabuki Warriors. But Rhea on Raw, even after that runs its course and she doesn't face Io, she still has Stephanie to face at some point. We've never seen Rhea and Stephanie. That's a massive Mania match you could do for Mania next year, regardless of who wins. Her and Liv, I don't really have any interest in running that back when Liv comes back. You could do Rhea and Naomi one-on-one when Naomi comes back, although it's no time soon. You could do Rhea and Becky again. Now, they did do it at Mania last year, but not with Rhea as the babyface and Becky as the heel. You can do that feud at some point. On SmackDown, you could do Jade and Rhea. That's a match for Mania. We've seen Rhea and Charlotte a ton, so we don't need to see that again. Rhea and Alexa, maybe. They would have to turn Alexa heel. You should not turn Rhea heel. They already have so many women's baby faces on SmackDown. I mean, I guess if you're switching Tiffany for Rhea, that's a fair trade. So, maybe. I wouldn't be upset at that. Rhea's never been on SmackDown, I don't think, and Tiffany's never been on Raw, so honestly, I don't mind that trade. Zork asked, in your eyes, did Hunter change the landscape last night? No fucking, he did not. Absolutely not. I hate that tweet that he put out before the show. I mean, I did not expect anything anyway. It was a good show. It was a fun show, but like changing the landscape, just because Logan Paul's back and he turned on CM Punk, who cares? Bro, stop saying stuff like that. You're getting into Tony Khan territory where you're saying everything is the greatest thing ever. And it's not, and people don't believe you. And it just makes you look like a moron when you say shit like that, or you're a fucking intern that's running your Twitter account, whatever it might be. Richie, what's going on, brother? He said, 4 letters, 1 word, lost. He did indeed lose on Saturday. I agree with that. Zork said, worst spear I've ever seen. Yeah, that was a fucking awful spear on Saturday from Punk to Jey. Zork also said, also Punk is overusing that spot where he does the GTS drop to his knees and the person lands on his shoulders. I thought the same thing watching the match. They did it twice in the same match, but he did it to Rollins a whole bunch. I think he did it to Gunther, I want to say. I know he started doing it against Moxley. I think the first time he did it was against Moxley at All Out years ago. But he's done it a lot this year from what I can recall. So I agree. I would also fucking tone it down with that spot. It's too much. 1 GTS and you should be done. Not 5 of them. It's just ridiculous. I agree, Richie. He said, petition for Love Ziggler to be seen as final opponent. I mean, he gets my vote. I don't know about anyone else, and I know Richie agrees, but I would hope everyone else would say Love Ziggler, final opponent for John Cena. Take my money. Zork said, after that performance, instead of Christmas, Roman should not want to see Jey until Easter. That's funny. He said, I still don't understand this Love Ziggler thing. Zork, listen, you and I both, none of us do. None of us understand what Love Ziggler means. That's the whole point. We don't understand what it means, and that's exactly why we understand what it means. We had Tyreek Cunningham here in the chat many, many months ago, back when we first started doing these live streams here on the channel, come in here, and the first thing he asked RJ and I in the chat, he said, hey guys, what would be your Love Ziggler nickname? And we said, what are you fucking talking about? And he never answered it again, and he just left. We were like, what is he talking about? And no one else in the chat seemed to know what he was talking about. Tyreek has been in many live streams since then. He would pop in. He could pop in today. He might have already popped in. Who knows? But he'll pop in, and it's like, okay, and he never answers. I'll ask him. I'll be like, hey, what does Love Ziggler mean? It's been so long now, he probably has no idea. But he never even answered right after the fact either. So we'll never quite know what Love Ziggler means, and that's exactly why we know what Love Ziggler is. Emmanuel, what's going on? He said hello. Zork said, what do you think Cena's best overall year is? 2015. I would say 2015. That U.S. Open Challenge shit is unmatched. You could also say 05 because he won his first World Championship that year. He had a great I Quit match with JBL. I think a Judgment Day to retain the title. He was champion for the rest of the year. He didn't lose it until the very beginning of January against Edge when he cashed in Money in the Bank. I would make an argument for 2015 or 05. I feel like in 05, people were already turning on Cena at the end of the year. He'd been champion since Mania, but he had that great JBL match at Judgment Day. He got drafted to Raw. He had a fun feud and some good matches with Jericho, Christian, Kurt Angle at Survivor Series leading up to Survivor Series as well. So I would say either 05 or 2015. I say 2015 because the matches he was having that year were far better than most matches he was having in 2005. He won back the United States Championship. He did lose to Rusev on one show, although he went on to beat Rusev another 3 times in the months that followed. But the Open Challenge gave us matches between him and Dean Ambrose, him and Rusev again. The Cesaro matches that were on Raw that summer were phenomenal. The Seth Rollins matches were excellent, including at SummerSlam, although he never won the World Championship that year. All the matches he and Rollins had that summer were great. We got to see him team with Sting on Raw. I'll be talking about that actually in WrestleRant Ranks. I forgot what it was about, but oh yeah, Cena and Sting. I have that in a WrestleRant Ranks video, which you'll find out what it's about next Monday. But, you know, he teamed with Sting that year. He was, what did he do at the end? Oh, no, he was gone. He lost the championship to Del Rio clean in like 5 minutes, and then he was gone until like December, and then he came back and got hurt again. But, you know, I think overall 2015 was his best year. What he did for that championship and what that championship did for him made him the most must-see wrestler in WWE, if not all of wrestling in 2015. Is Punk washed in the ring? I would disagree. That Jey Uso match was not good, but Punk has had enough good to great matches since he's been back where I would disagree that he's washed. I mean, the Gunther match was literally 2 or 3 months ago, and that match was excellent. He's had some good matches on Raw, some good triple threats, some good tag team matches, but the Gunther match was great. The 3-way at Mania with Roman and Rollins was excellent. Him and Drew McIntyre was one of the best Hell in a Cell matches that company's ever done, and that was only a year ago at Bad Blood. The other Drew McIntyre matches were good too. The Rollins match on Raw back from the beginning of the year was very good. So, no, I don't think Punk is washed in the ring. It kind of depends on who his opponent is, though. Fernando said, yeah, Love Ziggler is a mysterious figure. We still have not figured that out. Exactly. Exactly. Thank you, Fernando, for explaining that. Fernando said, are you a Stranger Things fan? If you are, what are your thoughts on the bullying allegations from Millie Bobby Brown to David Harbour? I saw that. I thought you were going to ask me about the teaser. I thought the teaser was good. That came out last week. The trailer for the new season dropping in a few weeks. Yeah, that was interesting because it wasn't as if she just filed the bullying allegations. And it is worth noting they're not like sexual abuse allegations or nothing like that. That's fucking awful. I mean, thankfully it's not that. This isn't great either, but it's not that. That's pretty bad. That would be pretty bad if it was that. It's not. But what's interesting though, she did not just file these claims. I don't know why it just came out now, but reportedly she filed those claims before they even filmed the show. Not in 2016, but the most recent season. And they filmed this season, what, a year ago? I mean, why is it just coming out now? And I'm curious. I would imagine it's probably not that big of a deal because they went on to film the show. If we don't see them in any scenes together on the show this upcoming season, then we'll know why. But I did think it was interesting. We have no idea what he did, what she found offensive, or what it was. They've also been on the show together for years, so why now? Is he just bullying her, or what did he say that could be constituted as bullying? I have no idea, but it was a very interesting situation because I'm thinking, didn't these two just then film the show together? It's not like she filed a restraining order against them, but bullying allegations are still important enough to where it's like, okay, did she not want to work with him? What happened there? And apparently they had to have put their differences aside because they obviously filmed the show and the show's coming out. So I don't know. I guess we'll find out more soon, but I thought that was interesting. Von Tell said, I think Tiffany going heel will happen organically sooner rather than later. Yeah, she could, but again, you just got to be mindful of who you have as your top baby faces and heels. When Bianca comes back, I feel like there's more of a chance that we can get heel Tiffany again. She ain't going heel right after Tiffany. Right after Jade just turned on her. That's not happening. Why would Jade turn on her and Jade would go heel and then Tiffany goes heel too? And it's not like she's teaming up with Jade. Unless Tiffany goes to Raw and you turn her there, or Bianca comes back and then you have, on the babyface side, you have Bianca, Charlotte, and Alexa. And on the heel side, you have women like Nia, Jade, Tiffany, even Julia. Then it's more even. But you would need Bianca back in order to turn Tiffany heel. And even when Bianca comes back, I don't think Tiffany turns heel anytime soon. You're not going to turn two of your big baby faces in that division heel at the same time. There has to be some distance between them, between the two turns. So it's not like Tiffany's heel turn gets lost in the shuffle, you know? Emmanuel said, seeing as the video headline is about Jey Uso, do you think he has aura? I do. I think the word aura is really overused, but you know, a lot of people don't like Jey Uso, and that's fine. But there is no denying how over this guy is, how popular he is, and how he's really kind of captured the imagination of a lot of younger fans in the time that he's been a top talent for WWE. His entrance is great. I feel like we're overexposed to it because we've seen it so often for so many years now. But specifically in the last year, like you bring a new fan to one of these shows. I brought a family member to Raw that had never been to a WWE show before, and they fucking love Jey Uso. Just for the sole reason of being a part of the entrance when we went to Raw about a year ago. So, yeah, I think he has aura. I'm not going to say that about every person on the roster. And not a big fan of his booking, and some of his matches aren't great. But entrance-wise, and that's really all that it's about. Ultimate Warrior, you could say the same thing. A lot of his matches were fucking shit. He had some great matches, but a lot of shitty ones. But he came out, and I would argue, I didn't live through it because I was born after he was already done wrestling in WWE, but for the most part, he had aura when he came out. And I would say Jey Uso isn't exactly Ultimate Warrior, but he also has aura. Zorik asked, what's the most frustrated you've been as a wrestling fan? I think I've answered this before. Most frustrated I've been? I don't know. Maybe 2018, 2019. I mean, those years for WWE were just fucking garbage, man. They were just fucking terrible. I mean, WWE and all these companies have made dumb decisions. Like when The Fiend lost to Rollins at Hell in the Cell all those years ago, I did not watch that show live. I forgot why. I think Alexis was working or something, and she wanted to watch it with me, so we waited until the next day. It was fucking terrible. The show was awful, and that match was one of the worst I've ever seen. That pissed me off pretty bad. I'm sure there's other moments as well, but like just a general period and when I was frustrated as a fan, WWE in 2018, 2019 respectively. I mean, those years had some good stuff, but a lot of fucking garbage. A lot of garbage. When Vince came back after already being ousted in 2022, he came back in 2023. I was pretty fucking pissed then. When Cody Rhodes, actually, here's a great example. When Cody Rhodes lost to Roman at WrestleMania 39, I was so shell-shocked, I legit did not think they would do that, and then they did. Granted, it ended up working out at Mania the following year. But there is video evidence of me being not upset like I was crying. I didn't give a fuck about like, oh, he did my favorite wrestler, he lost. Like, I don't care about that. But like the fact that Cody lost and he was made to look like a fucking idiot on that show really pissed me off. And then I was in the press conference for Mania Night 2 right after that for Mania 39. And you could see my reaction kind of in the building or in the moment. But anyway, that really pissed me off. So that would probably be up there as well. Johnny said, my favorite CM Punk world title win is when CM Punk won the Target world title from Nick and Matt Jackson. Fernando said, Baron Corbin had no business retiring Kurt Angle. I agree. Your favorite Legends retirement match? Favorite retirement match? Probably Shawn and Taker. I mean, I'm not counting that Crown Jewel garbage from 2018. But Shawn's final match at Mania 26, that was my first Mania I watched live in 2010. And it was an amazing match. Still, to me, one of the best WrestleMania main events of all time. And, yeah, I would probably go Taker and Shawn. Again, he did retire, technically, because he came back in 2018, but that was his official retirement. And that 2018 match was garbage. And we actually surpassed the 7-year anniversary of that match the other day. That also pissed me off, too. That match was so fucking bad at Crown Jewel 2018. That show really pissed me off. That show was awful. That show was so bad. Emmanuel says, Firefly Funhouse match, but it's John Cena versus Kurt Angle versus Bray Wyatt. Oh, if Kurt Angle didn't retire at Mania 39, but he retired at, or 35, but he retired at 36, and they included Kurt Angle, that would have been garbage. Noob said, good morning, but yeah, the Vision should be looking for people to join them heading into War Games. They will be, they should not be, though. Why the fuck would they even care about teaming with Logan Paul? Why would they want to team with Brock? Brock I kind of get because there's the Paul Heyman connection. But like Austin Theory, you want to recruit a guy that was losing to God knows who on Raw 6 months ago? Who cares? Who cares about Austin Theory in 2025? I like Theory. He's a good guy. I like him as a wrestler. I want to see him get a chance. That is not going to get him over. It will actually hurt the credibility of the Vision more than it will help Austin Theory. Do you think as time passes, the Cena heel run will be looked at more favorably? I don't know how it could be. I really don't. People will look back fondly at the heel turn. I can already see it now. On the 1-year anniversary of the heel turn, people will be sharing that clip next year on March 4th or whatever the fuck it was. 1st, 2nd. I think it was March 1st this year. But anyway, I could see people sharing that video and being like, oh yeah, the turn was so amazing, but completely forgetting about the fallout, how he was never on Raw. The reign itself had some good moments. I'm not going to say it was all terrible, but like a lot of the matches really didn't live up to expectations. The R-Truth feud that they kind of reignited when Truth came back went nowhere. A lot of Cena's promos as a heel were fucking terrible. He did not sound authentic at all. He turned back babyface 2 weeks or 2 days before he had that world title match, before he lost the title to Cody Rhodes. He didn't even turn babyface in the match. He turned face before the match. Very random, very random. So, no. I mean, honestly, anyone who does look back at it more favorably, if you enjoyed it, more power to you. I don't think anyone can sit here and say that it was a good heel turn. I appreciated the attempt, but it never made any sense. The timing was terrible, and the execution sucked. Those, to me, were the 3 things as to what was most wrong with that heel turn. The execution of the fallout, the execution of the turn was great, but leading up to it, it made no sense, and the timing was also awful. So because the 3 things were not, those boxes were not checked, that heel run was a disaster. And that, to me, has got to be the biggest faux pas, if you will, of Triple H's time as head of creative. I mean, what else has he fucked up more than John Cena's heel turn? This big thing, this fabled heel turn that we had been dreaming about for decades. We finally get it, and it sucks. It was a waste of 4 months of his retirement tour. We got him in Orton. We got him in Punk. I liked all of those. I liked those matches. The first Cody Rhodes match in Mania sucked. That was a really mediocre match. It was really not good at all. Travis Scott, we never saw again. I don't know how you could possibly look at that favorably in retrospect. I mean, everything about, like, people look back at everything with rose-colored glasses, but that specifically, I don't know how anyone could be convinced, even if it's 10 years from now, how that was a good idea and how that was actually a good heel run. Fernando asked, what are your thoughts on the racism allegations Devon Dudley put on Jim Ross? I saw that. It's very unfortunate he was put in that situation. To my knowledge, Jim Ross has not responded at all. Now, I don't know if he's going through some health stuff right now. He really should respond publicly. I mean, maybe he talked to Devon privately. Devon did not make that clear, though. He kind of loosely referred to Devon, or I'm sorry, Devon loosely referred to Jim Ross. I think in an interview with Maven or whatever. He didn't say his name, but he was clearly referring to JR. And then he did another interview talking about it. And he mentioned Jim Ross by name that time. And it's not, that was his opportunity to say, oh yeah, Jim Ross has since reached out and said, I'm sorry, I don't remember. Whether he remembered it or not, at least he apologized. And I think Jim Ross is a good guy. I'm not saying that he is a racist or whatever, but, Jim Ross, Devon, to my knowledge, is the first person that has come out and has said anything about, like that about Jim Ross. Not saying it didn't happen, but it definitely, I mean, Jim Ross, or rather Devon, was pretty steadfast in his allegations on JR. Like, it's not as if he was drunk or like he misremembers things or Devon isn't trustworthy. Devon has a pretty good head on his shoulders, and he seems to be a very good guy as well. So the bigger question now is why Jim Ross has not said anything publicly, because I could see it snowballing and it becoming a bigger issue. And it would suck for Jim Ross to get, canceled, so to speak, right before he retires full-time from announcing. He's looked at as this revered legend, which he is, but it would be a bummer if this one thing, which is bad, it's definitely a mark on his legacy, completely overshadows all of that because he won't apologize. It's like the Ric Flair route, where Ric Flair got accused of all this shit. He either downplayed it or never apologized or didn't give a fuck. I would hope Jim Ross would be better than that. But it was unfortunate to read about that a few weeks ago. Do I think Dwayne is done as a wrestler? I do. I feel like his time to come on in and work a match is gone. That time has come and gone. It's just, we're not getting him in Roman at this point. If it even did happen, would anyone even care? How would you feel about a Punk, Cody, Roman, Brock four-way at Mania? Someone asked this either, I think it was on WrestleRant Radio last week. No thanks. No thanks. Why? What would be the point of that? We would get Roman and Brock back in the ring again. We would get Cody and Roman back in the ring again. We would get Cody and Brock back in the ring again. I mean, literally 3 of the 4 of those guys are part-timers. Punk is more of a full-timer than Roman or Brock combined, but even he is not a full-time active member, and all guys are 40 plus. Like, no. Like, what would even be the point of that match? So absolutely not. I would rather see Punk and Cody. That match would be good. That interests me. That's not a match we've seen in WWE in a very long time, especially with them being at the level they're at now. Roman and Brock being involved, no thanks. Zork said, is Drew's trolling act on Twitter wearing thin? It does if he doesn't start winning matches that matter most. If he doesn't start winning meaningful matches soon, then his trolling act is funny on Twitter, but it won't mean anything. He'll just sound like a fucking loser. Like a crying baby. And Drew, even as a character, is smarter than that. He should know more than to lose and then go back to crying about it. Like at a certain point, you just lose all credibility. Andrea Bazarte is one of WWE's Spanish interviewers and Ludwig's new girlfriend, allegedly. Okay, there you go. So I did refer to her earlier, but I didn't know that was her name. I mentioned her when someone commented on her, but I saw Ludwig in an interview with her and holding hands with her. I didn't know that was her name, though. Maybe that's Grande's girlfriend and Kaiser's girlfriend is still Tiffany. Just saying. It's possible. Fernando said, current SmackDown creative should all be released. Why just wrestlers get released all the time? Others should get released for not being good at their job. I mean, to be fair, that does happen. We don't hear about it as often, but there are constant shakeups in creative. Now, will Road Dogg get fired? Probably not. When I heard that they were making appropriate changes to SmackDown specifically, they did not say they were moving Road Dogg from his post. They said they were adding people to the team. That's nice. But Road Dogg, I'm not saying he's entirely the issue. He's the scapegoat here. But he's obviously part of the problem, especially when you realize that he was also writing SmackDown back in 2017 during that Jinder Mahal title reign, and that was fucking terrible. Now, granted, Vince McMahon was in charge at that point, but it seems like the common denominator might be Road Dogg as a head creative writer. If you have him on the team, that's one thing. But if he's the head writer for SmackDown, doesn't speak too well to the current state of SmackDown when he's the guy responsible for a lot of what we've gotten this year. I'm not saying he should be released. He should probably be shuffled off the team, or reassigned to something else. That's what happened when he was on SmackDown the last time. He left creative and went to fucking NXT or left the company. He got fired a few years ago, but that was when Vince was still there. But anyway, creative writers get fired constantly just because we don't know who they are. Like the lower level writers, there's been a lot of shakeups, more than we're probably even publicly aware of. Zork, so was Charlotte actually right? Was Ludkaiser in her DMs? I don't think so, but that line does not age very well now knowing that they're no longer together. That being Kaiser and Tiffany. Graham 6'7" Matthews? God, no. Let's not make that a thing like Love Ziggler. No thanks. 6'7" needs to die. Fernando said, if AEW just released Britt Baker today and WWE picked her up right away, where would she be a better fit? Raw, SmackDown, or NXT? Not Raw. Raw does not need her. I don't even think WWE needs her, just to be clear. But if you're asking if they did hire her, where would she be a best fit? I want to say NXT, but I feel like SmackDown's women's division is so fucking dire right now. Britt Baker would have to be a babyface. I mean, they already have Fatal Influence. They have Blake Monroe. I mean, she works better as a heel. But she'd have to come in as a babyface. I mean, who's the women's champion? Tatum Paxley? I mean, her and Paxley doesn't sound like a very appealing match, but there's not a lot of women in that division. They're great, but there's not a lot of appealing, exciting matches currently in that NXT women's division that would get me to be excited. I mean, they lost a lot of their best workers to the main roster earlier this year. I would say SmackDown. I mean, SmackDown needs more variety. It's been a lot of the same faces for a while now. I think Nia's improved a lot and whatnot, but we need more people in that scene beyond Tiffany, and Nia. Britt Baker's already main roster ready. She's not amazing in the ring or anything, but she doesn't need an NXT run. Blake Monroe also did not need an NXT run. But that was the best place for her to go, because if she went to the main roster from the get-go, she probably would have been quickly overshadowed based on when she came into the company. But NXT doesn't really need her right now. I would say maybe SmackDown. Do I care to see Britt Baker on SmackDown? No. But if they were to bring her in tomorrow, I think SmackDown might be the better fit, just because I feel like they could use her. There might be more for her to do. Maybe not even necessarily, but it's been a lot of the same faces in each division for a while now, so at least it would be something different, if nothing else. Drew McIntyre was extremely stupid on Saturday, Noob said. I don't disagree with that. His booking was awful. Fernando said, I took my daughter trick-or-treating for the first time, and went as the Phantom of the Opera, and my daughter dressed up as Samara, the creepy girl from The Ring. How old is your daughter that she knows who Samara from The Ring is? That's crazy. Great costume, though. And that's a pretty good costume on your part, too, to be the Phantom. But very cool that you took your daughter trick-or-treating. That's always a fun time. The best part, I think there's a lot of great parts of Halloween, but as far as the trick-or-treating thing goes, when obviously you reach an age where you can't go yourself anymore, but when you have kids, you can go with them. It's like experiencing it all over again from a different perspective. It's like Christmas, you kind of grow out of the whole Santa thing. You still get gifts from certain people, but then you kind of get to experience that same magic of gift giving from the lens of someone who's doing it, and kind of have the same joy as you did as a kid. I don't have kids, but I'm just saying doing it for other people is kind of the equivalent to that. Fernando said, how about that Game 7 of the World Series? What a game. That's what I heard. I have not seen the highlights yet. I was almost tempted to check it out after the Saturday main event show on Saturday. I just had a long fucking day on Saturday, and I just ended up doing something else instead. But I saw my Twitter timeline on fire on Saturday night during Game 7 between the Blue Jays and the Dodgers. I heard it was awesome. And I've talked to a lot of people about it, and they said it was excellent. So, very cool. Good win for the Dodgers. It sounded like the Blue Jays kind of were their own worst enemy, and they fucked up, and they could have won if they weren't their own worst enemy. But it sounded like the game itself was awesome and one of the best World Series of all time, which is great to hear. You don't hear that very often. Grunt, what's going on, brother? Haven't heard from you in a while. He said, hello, Graham and chat. Grunt, what's going on, my man? Hope you're doing well. Thank you for joining us here in the chat. For anyone joining now or coming in later, be sure to like the video, by the way. Would greatly appreciate it. Would just offer. All you have to do is offer a quick thumbs up on the video down below. Helps out the video, the channel, everything else. So I would greatly appreciate that if you could do it. Millennial Noob said, speaking of Rhea and Io, where the fuck are Rhea Ripley and Io Sky last night? The Kabuki Warriors are going after the women's tag titles next week. Hope they cost the Kabuki Warriors the match. Yeah, I think they will either cost them the match or come out and attack them afterward. I think this is all leading to women's war games with Bayley, Lyra, Rhea, and Io. Maybe Max and Dupree or AJ Lee is their partner. And then they're going to be facing Kabuki Warriors. But, like, who else on that team? Charlotte and Alexa would not make sense. They're baby faces. Raquel and Roxanne are currently feuding with Stephanie. So maybe Stephanie could be the fifth person on the babyface team. Yeah, I don't know. I guess that could work. Thinking about it now, I mean, that could work. I mean, they've rumored different lineups for that Women's War Games match, but it could be Rhea Ripley, Io Sky. They were attacked by the Kabuki Warriors a few weeks ago, which is why they have not been on since. I mean, the attack wasn't that vicious that they would be out for a month, but whatever. Anyway, it could be Rhea Ripley, Io Sky, Bayley, Lyra Valkyria, and Stephanie versus Roxanne, Raquel, Kabuki Warriors, and Becky Lynch. Now, Becky Lynch feels like the odd woman out there because she's currently feuding with Maxine. Even if you were to bring back AJ Lee and put her on the babyface team, why would the Judgment Day be on the heel team if Stephanie's not in there, who they're currently feuding with? You know what I mean? So, I don't know how that shakes out, but you have options there. The Women's War Games match makes way more sense than the men's match. The men's match this year is a fucking mess because of Rollins' injury. Now they're bringing Logan Paul into it. I don't know what's going on there. Is it time for the El Grande Americano gimmick to end? Yes, Fernando. I feel like they were only keeping it going for as long as they have because the Rey Mysterio thing, like they never got to finish that feud. And Rey Mysterio came back last night not targeting El Grande Americano. He came back after Dominic instead. So, yeah, kind of stupid. But hopefully they can end it. I just don't care about it. I like Kaiser. I like Dunn and Bate and whatever, but it's just been well past the point of being interesting. It has reached its expiration point as the gimmick. Fernando said, is Triple H a huge mark for himself? Seemingly, yes. I mean, I think he's always been a mark for himself, but especially the way that he's put himself in so much promotional material, the shows that he has started. I know he kind of wants to be the Dana White of WWE. You could also argue Dana White is a massive mark for himself as well. So I think that's an accurate statement. Nathaniel said, and my Seahawks are dominating, he says. He also said, do you want to see Becky versus Bayley at WrestleMania or Becky versus Lyra if she doesn't have the IC championship? No time soon in Becky versus Lyra. We got that feud for many months. You can't do it for the IC title anyway because Lyra lost that match at SummerSlam, where if she lost, she can't challenge for the championship. So she would have to lose the title, like you said. But I would not go back to that anytime soon. Becky versus Bayley, no, we've seen it enough times. You could do that match on Raw, but at WrestleMania, I'd rather see Becky versus AJ. You'd have to wait a long time for that, but I'd rather see Becky versus AJ, Becky versus Stephanie, Becky versus Rhea again. All of those are more fresher and more appealing to me than Becky versus Bayley at WrestleMania. Grunt said, who is a wrestler that never held the big gold belt that you wish did, if only for the visual? I can say that most of my favorites had it at least once, except for Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yeah, I guess that's accurate, right? Because I was going to say Stone Cold, was he never undisputed champion in WWE? Like he held, yeah, I guess he didn't, because he could have held it had he beaten Jericho at Vengeance 01 when they crowned the undisputed champion. Jericho was the WCW champion. He had just won the belt, I think, from The Rock earlier in the show. I think Stone Cold retained the WWE title against Booker, right? Against Booker T. And then Jericho beat Stone Cold to win the WWE title and become undisputed champion. So, yeah, I don't think Austin ever had that big gold belt. For me, this is going to be very random. I always thought he should have been world champion in general. We've answered this question before. Not your question, but like, who never won a world title that you wished won a world title? To me, William Regal. And it was possible in 2008 when he was getting that mega, massive heel push as the Raw GM. And then he got suspended, and he has actually since said that was not his fault. He takes full accountability for it, but there was actually some sort of an oversight there that they chalked it up to a suspension, even though it wasn't really his problem. Like, it wasn't like he was back on drugs or whatever. It was a clinical oversight or something like that, and it cost him 60 days. They counted it as a suspension. But anyway, he takes full accountability for it, even though it sounds like it wasn't his fault. It would have been cool if William Regal was a world champion around that point. If William Regal won, I mean, him as WWE champion would have made more sense because the WWE title was on Raw. But then right after the draft, the World Heavyweight Championship came back to Raw. So Regal could have won the World Heavyweight Championship had he not been suspended, and how long they could have kept that push going with him as Raw GM. If he went back to being an active member of the roster, him winning that World Championship at some point that summer, before Jericho got really hot, would have been cool. I would have loved to have seen that. Fernando said, Jade, Punk, Cody, Ricky Saints, and Blake Monroe are all champions in WWE. On behalf of the sickos, you're welcome, WWE. And Ethan Page, you forgot Ethan Page. He's also a former AEW talent. We also could have had Rusev or Penta as the Intercontinental Champion, both former AEW talents, one being an AEW original, had they won on Saturday. And the Hardy Boys, which we also forgot about, just lost the NXT Tag Team titles, but they were also former AEW wrestlers that were just NXT Tag Team Champions. So a lot of former AEW talent holding WWE gold in 2025. Nathaniel said, I loved Edge versus Cena in 06. I think it's the top 10 greatest rivalry. A lot of people are very fond of that feud between Edge and Cena. They were great rivals. Grunt said, I would rather not talk about the World Series. Yeah, it's probably a sore spot for our Canadian friend, Average Grunt. I wish the Blue Jays won just for the simple sake of switching it up. I think the Dodgers won the World Series in 2020, and they also won it either last year or 2 years ago. I couldn't tell you the last time the Blue Jays won the World Series. Maybe it was recently. I don't think so, but it would have been a nice win for Canada. Unfortunately, did not happen. But it sounds like, from what I can understand, they only had themselves to blame. A lot of mistakes were made, from what I could tell. Emmanuel said 2005 Cena is a curious thing. I used to hear the PG era ruined him, but crowds were already divisive against him as soon as late 05. Yeah, that's what I said. So it's not like the PG era ruined him. John Cena was, like, his promos and like his booking as far as being overexposed, that was already happening by that first fucking world title reign. Well before he won another 16 world championships, during that first reign, like you said, he was already being booed by late 05, early 06. And that was years before they went PG. So the PG rating might have been a factor, but it was not the sole reason as to why Cena, became a divisive figure and people started booing him. They were booing him well before that. Zork said, who has been WWE's most pushed wrestler to little success? Ever? I have no idea. I mean, you could probably point to a lot of people. Vladimir Kozlov, they fucking shoved down people's throats. Just in the time that I've been watching, they shoved Vladimir Kozlov down people's throats, and the only thing he ever won was the tag team titles. That was it. As a main eventer, they tried hard for months there. He was involved in various WWE title matches. He beat the fucking Undertaker at one point. They pushed him hard for like a year, and then after Mania, they just gave up. That was it. He went to ECW, and his push was over. So Kozlov might be one, because he never won any singles gold, only the tag titles briefly in like late 2010, early 2011. I'm not going to say Ryback, because Ryback at least was over for a while. He never won a world championship. He is a former Intercontinental champion. He was never a world champion, but at least he was IC champion. He was over, sold a lot of merch. So it's not like he's the most pushed wrestler to no success. Vladimir Kozlov comes to mind. Now, I'm sure there's other people, but he's the first name that comes to mind from the last 20 years anyway. Nathaniel said, I missed most of Saturday night's main event because I was watching the World Series, as I would expect. Nathaniel also said, I'm so excited for Stranger Things. Do you have a favorite episode? Maybe the explanation of Vecna being behind everything dating back to season 1. Spoiler alert for those that haven't seen it, but that sentence won't even make sense until you watch the episode anyway, or until you watch season 4. You would probably forget about it regardless, but I thought season 4 was really good. A lot of long episodes. I'm not a big fan of like 2-hour-long fucking episodes. But I did enjoy season 4 probably the most. Season 1 might be considered the best, but I think I like season 4 the most. I don't know if I have a favorite episode, but the episode where they kind of go back and they explain the whole Vecna backstory, that might be the best episode that I can remember. I binged it all within like a month. Alexis and I both. But that's the episode that stands out in my memory from when I watched it. Grunt said, is Austin Aries over CM Punk? better than CM Punk, he's saying. Strictly from an in-ring perspective, is that a hot take? I don't think that's a hot take. I think CM Punk might be a better storyteller, and he's obviously had far bigger matches than Austin Aries. But like in terms of pure in-ring ability, you could probably name a whole bunch of people that were better than CM Punk in the ring. But CM Punk is a complete package in terms of getting people into the buildings, talking people into the buildings, and as an in-ring performer, that's why he's among the best ever. Austin Aries didn't really have that same presence about him. He didn't really have that must-see presence about him. He was a world champion in Ring of Honor and in TNA and stuff like that. But in WWE, he could have done well. They just never pushed him at that level, unfortunately. But in the ring, at their peak, in their respective primes, you could probably make an argument that Austin Aries was better than CM Punk. I could see that. Fernando said, are you pumped for the Doomsday trailer coming out next week? Is it next week? I did not hear that. I thought it was coming out with the Avatar movie, which is like next month. Either way, I am excited. The movie doesn't come out for another year, but if they could put out a trailer, like a soft teaser that gets people excited, and, I think that would be cool. And people would really get people buzzing and speculating for the next year. I don't know what that trailer would look like, but I heard it would be attached to Avatar, which I was probably going to see anyway. I don't think the Avatar movies are as great as people say they are. They're good. I did finally watch them a few years ago. They were all right. I'll probably see the third one because I saw the other two. Whatever. But we'll see. Zork said, should I sell my Montez Ford solo run stock? Yeah, I think I wrote a whole article about it, why he should be the next breakout star. I look like such an idiot now in retrospect. They have done fucking nothing with Montez Ford. Nothing. They even teased breaking up the profits, but it's been going on for months, and I don't think it's going anywhere. Zork said, what do you think Triple H has against LA Knight? He probably only sees him at a certain level. I don't think LA Knight pissed in his coffee. I think Vince McMahon had something against LA Knight. He didn't just see him at a certain level. He wanted to fucking fire that guy. He thought he sucked in every respect, but as a manager. I think Triple H likes LA Knight, but he has never, ever, ever seen LA Knight as the guy. Even when he brought him into NXT 4 years ago, he was never the guy at that point. He was never the NXT champion. He has only ever seen him at a certain level, and I think he's better than that. If Jey Uso can win a fucking world title, so could LA Knight. That is my criteria personally at this point. Zork said, do you think the Dirty Dom character could work as a babyface? Yeah, I do. I mean, people already like him anyway, but I think it's going to be a Tiffany thing where he's going to organically get over. He already has, but like he'll go babyface because of that. And then people will complain eventually that, oh, he's kind of boring as a face. He was a way better heel. He did a way better job of getting heat, blah, blah, blah. And then they'll turn him back heel. It's the same thing as the Tiffany formula. It will happen with Dirty Dom. Maybe not as quickly. People won't get sick of him as quickly, but it will happen eventually. That's just the way the world turns. Nathaniel said, let me backtrack a little bit here. A lot of comments. Like I said, I appreciate all the chats and the activity here in the chat. Like the video if you haven't already. We have not gotten to the scheduled questions yet, and we'll get to those later on after we get through more of these chats here in the chat. So we get through more of these questions and comments. Let's see. Nathaniel said, I hear people saying that Toby's Spider-Man is in Doomsday. I think that would be cool. It's possible. I don't think he is. I think that they kind of completed that arc with No Way Home, but that would be cool. Don't get me wrong. Fernando, why Jey Uso is nowhere near as popular as the Ultimate Warrior? I mean, obviously, Ultimate Warrior was a much bigger star at a bigger time, but I'm saying as just in terms of how fans felt about the Ultimate Warrior back then is how a lot of people feel about Jey Uso. A lot of his matches could be fucking shit, but he comes out there and he's mega over. Like, again, guys, you could shit on Jey Uso all you want. I'm not a big fan of his promos, and his match on Saturday was not good at all. And it does take two to tango, but a lot of his other matches have been mediocre too. But he's fucking over, and he sells so much shit. So in terms of that reason alone, and he's had longevity on top now for a while, he is their version. He is the closest thing WWE currently has to the Ultimate Warrior. Is he as big of a star as Ultimate Warrior? No, because Ultimate Warrior looked a lot better than Jey Uso does. He looked like a fucking Greek god compared to Jey Uso. But In terms of being over and selling merch, he's the closest thing WWE has to an Ultimate Warrior. Ultimate Warrior will always be a bigger star because of when he was there. If Ultimate Warrior came in today, he would be probably way worse than Jey Uso. People would probably be like, what the fuck is this? I don't think Ultimate Warrior works in 2025. Jey Uso might be considered a modern-day Ultimate Warrior in terms of appealing to the current demographic and landscape and culture and whatnot, and just being fucking cool. Just my opinion. Let's see. Do you think Triple H feels any building negative reaction to his booking? Of course he does. He's been feeling that for a while now, which is why he makes dumb comments in interviews saying like, oh, fans got to be fucking fans and blah, 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 blah. And listen, there are dumb fans that ruin it for everyone else. But I think he takes constructive criticism as complaining like, oh, it's not valid. But if we praise his product, it's valid. So I don't know. He's been feeling the negative pressure for a while now. I can guarantee you of that. Fernando said, have we seen the last of the draft? If there was a time where it was badly needed, it is now. Both brands have become very stale. Listen, man. I've always been a big proponent of the draft. I used to love the draft. I still do. But I just can't deal. I mean, it goes on, it's both ends. WWE's done a draft now for the last few years. They could do a better job of doing it, but people complain every fucking time. Even when people do switch brands, people complain anyway. So I'm just saying, forego the whole draft process, because when people end up on the same show, people complain anyway. The way they used to do the draft with people randomly switching shows never really made sense, although it was a more exciting concept. Forego all of that shit and just have people switch brands when necessary. Bro, LA Knight and Jimmy Uso were on SmackDown. They're basically on Raw at this point. Were they drafted to Raw? No. Should they have been traded to Raw? Yes. In storyline, they just fucking showed up. That shit pisses me off. But it's not like we haven't gotten people switching shows. I mean, come on. LA Knight moved to Raw. Jimmy Uso moved to Raw. Sami Zayn moved to SmackDown. These are not like undercard performers. These are pretty popular mid-carders. Okay? And I'm not saying they shouldn't switch more people. They do. There are people that do need to switch, like Rhea, Tiffany, among others. If I look at the roster right now, I could probably name other people that could switch brands right now and benefit. But a formal draft for like a couple of people is not going to work and people will complain. It's a double-edged sword. So don't do a draft, but have people switch shows. Not at the same time, but like sporadically. Like LA Knight switched brands over the summer. Jimmy Uso came to Raw in the fall. Sami Zayn went to SmackDown right around the same time that Jimmy Uso went to SmackDown. I think him and LA Knight switched at pretty much the same time. Anyway, Fernando said, do you know when TNA is doing weekly television shows again? I think the Thursday before Victory Road. I think they have a live TV taping scheduled for November 14th at Full Sail, actually. So I know there's an episode this week. It's definitely not new content. They have not taped anything new since Bound for Glory. And there was nothing at Bound for Glory. They've aired shit on TNA TV since then, but nothing worth for me watching, nothing worth me reviewing, whatever. They have an episode this week that might be like dark matches from the past year that's technically new, but they have not taped anything new since October. They're going to have a go-home show for Victory Road, a show where I don't know if any matches are announced. I don't know why the fuck they're having a show on November 14th with no matches announced. To me, that makes no sense. But I think they're doing a show November 14th, live from Full Sail. And then they're doing Victory Road that Friday, I think also from Full Sail. And then they have a TV taping the next day, also a Full Sail. So they will have TV again starting next Thursday. But to take a whole month off, it's like any momentum they had for Bound for Glory is completely gone. Fernando said, I already answered that. When should The Rock get infected into the Hall of Fame family? You mean inducted, Fernando? Infected, you make it sound like it's a fucking disease. Inducted into the Hall of Fame, he should have been in years ago, but I think they want to wait until he's free. I mean, Rock's schedule is so hectic and so busy. He barely shows up to fucking appear for WWE, let alone do a whole Hall of Fame induction. Realistically, they should have just put in The Rock when he came back during Mania 40 season, because he was around a lot during that few-month period. He was there from January to April. He was around for a while, and he made a lot of appearances. He really, realistically, should have just been on in the Hall of Fame that year, just induct him that weekend, but they put in Paul Heyman instead, so he was the headliner. But we knew Rock was there because he was at the fucking Hall of Fame inducting Muhammad Ali or whatever it was. Realistically, they should have just put him in the Hall of Fame then when they knew he was available. How long should Punk hold the World Championship, and who should beat him for it? In my opinion, he should hold it till the Rumble and lose it to Braun Breaker. I don't think you need to do him and Breaker at WrestleMania. I think Breaker and Roman is a bigger and better Mania match. Breaker can already be world champion. You don't have to wait until WrestleMania to put the belt on him. Do it before then. Doesn't have to be next month. Doesn't have to be tomorrow. But it can be in January or February 1st or whenever the fucking Rumble is. I think it's January 31st. Gives Punk a nice 3-ish month run. It looks like he'll be in War Games. Whatever. He can defend against Logan Paul at some point. Probably at Saturday night's main event, if I had to take a guess. Maybe face LA Knight before then. I doubt it. I've just given up on that at this point. But he can face Braun Breaker at the Rumble and lose the belt there. Will that happen? I'm not sure. But that's what I would do personally. Do you see them removing Ava as GM anytime soon? No. She has been the GM for almost 2 years now. There's no indication that they're not happy with her in the role. I think she sucks as GM. That's just me. Whatever. But no, I don't think she is removed as GM anytime soon. Until she just doesn't want to do it anymore. Zorik said, did Britt ever face Jade in AEW? No, not in a one-on-one match anyway. They may have been a part of like other battle royals and stuff, but one-on-one, we never got Britt versus Jade. I thought we would get it at some point when Jade was done with the TBS championship, but she just ended up leaving the company. And literally, as soon as she dropped the belt, she was gone for a few months, came back, put over Statlander. Her contract expired that week, and she was signed with WWE within days. So we never got her and Britt Baker. Not really a match I care about seeing at this point anyway. I mean, Britt Baker and Jade as a match probably wouldn't be all that good. But it was a big match in AEW at one point because they were the two biggest stars of their respective divisions. I mean, they were both women's champions at the same time. Jade became the inaugural TBS champion in early 2022. Britt lost her women's championship that March or April. I think it was March. But they were champions simultaneously in March, or like from January to March. So that would have been a match to do at some point, and they just never ended up doing it. Probably because they were both heels. Emmanuel said, R-Truth has said that Jim Ross told him wrestling is a white man's sport when he first signed in 2000, but also told him, you can be your Michael Jordan. Yeah, that's a dumb thing to say, that wrestling is a white man's sport. That just sounds... like the difference is, and I'm not saying it's not an issue, because it definitely is, those comments, to me, scream ignorance. I don't know if Jim Ross is racist or not. I don't know him personally. It just sounds ignorant as something that would have sounded clever back in 2000. Maybe not necessarily racist, but kind of fucking stupid. And again, I would hope that with time, he has seen and heard those things again and think to himself, okay, that was probably a dumb thing to say and not necessarily true. I apologize. That's not who I am today. But like I said, so far, I've heard no accountability on his part at all as far as taking back those statements that he made from years ago to Devon and Truth and people like that. Fernando said, who would be in your all-time Survivor Series elimination team? I don't know. I've answered this before. I've said, I don't know, Punk, Steve Austin would be on the same team. Punk, Steve Austin, Macho Man. I have no fucking clue. I've answered this before, though. I'd have to go back and see what else I've said before. But it would be some combination of Punk, Stone Cold, Macho Man against Rock, Hogan, Cena, Roman Reigns. And then on the heel team, or on Punk's team, a modern star, Cody maybe, or put Roman on Punk's team, and then put Cody on Cena's team. I don't know, some sort of combination of those guys, I would say. If I was a Blue Jay fan, I would be crushed. I am sure Grunt is, among other people are as well, that they lost on Saturday. Why is almost everyone doing the spear? I don't know, but it looks like shit, so I would hope they would stop doing it. It's because if their opponent does it, then they do it. So, like, Breaker does it, and it looks amazing. Roman does it already. Okay, Roman's looks good. Jey Uso should not be doing the fucking spear. And then everyone who Jey faces does the spear. Gunther does it. Goldberg's, he's 50, 60 years old or whatever, so obviously his looks like shit. You got CM Punk doing it. Like, that just looks like garbage, so no thanks. Would you want Ray to beat Dom? No, because I don't think Ray needs the Intercontinental Championship. I wouldn't complain, but Ray's already held that belt before. We don't really need to have him holding a mid-card belt in 2025. He's already been U.S. champion a few times, IC champion a few times. So I wouldn't do that, but, I think that'd be a great match for a Survivor Series, though. Ray and Dom in San Diego, that would be a hot match. Zork said, I feel like anyone who is not physically imposing has no business doing the spear. Leave it to Braun Breaker, and that's about it. Roman and Brock. Or I'm sorry, Braun, not Brock Lesnar. Braun Breaker and Roman Reigns. That is it. No one else should be doing it. It looks like shit. Who is the greatest wrestler that you have seen never to be a world champion? Fernando asked. That I've ever seen, like ever. I mean, we've been over this before. We did a whole video on this earlier this year. But like Roddy Piper should have been a world champion. Rick Rude's another one. I mentioned William Regal. My modern day standards, Cesaro should have been world champion at least once in WWE. Samoa Joe has been world champion in various promotions except WWE. The fact that he was never WWE world champion pisses me off. I guess any of those names come to mind. Let's see. I already answered that. Fernando's other question. My daughter is 7. She doesn't know about the ring. I just dressed her up as that for that character. Okay, so that was your idea. Still a good parent, though. Not a bad idea. I'm sure she had no clue what that movie was and probably will not be watching it anytime soon. She'll probably be scared shitless, but I'm sure it looked cool. Grunt said 1993 was the last time they won the World Series for the Blue Jays. In 1992, the year that I was born, was the first time they ever won it. Okay, so they won it back-to-back years like the fucking Hogan winning the Royal Rumble back in those days. And they have not won it since. That's crazy. Emmanuel said the Vengeance 2001 unification was Kurt Angle versus Steve Austin, Jericho versus The Rock, Jericho versus Austin. Angle has claimed he was the original winner, but then Vince thought Jericho needed it. I could see that. But either way, Austin was never going to walk out with both belts. If he did, he would have held the big gold. But because he didn't, he never held that belt. Fernando said Veer should be in the tournament and face Cena. This is a no-brainer. I agree. I don't know if the powers that be would agree either, but we are big Veer fans here on WrestleRant Radio and on hashtag AskGSM here at WrestleRant. We are big Veer fans. He is still coming, and he could be coming for John Cena, but it doesn't look like it's going to be happening in December. Who should die in Stranger Things, Fernando said. The kid that... I'm not great with names. The kid with the fucking bowl cut that was like the damsel in distress for the first 2 seasons. He is annoying as fuck. I would love to see... I hate seeing, like, these are children, and I'm saying, I would love to see him die. Like, that's fucked up, but he was always annoying to me. I wouldn't mind if he died. 11 dying would probably make sense. No issue there. I feel like if you want some sense of normalcy again in the world, within the world of Stranger Things, anything that's supernatural kind of has to go away or die. I don't think she could just live a normal life at this point. So 11, the bowl cut kid, one of the 2 boys, they've been fighting over that girl now for 4 seasons. One of them's got to die, I think. I'm not saying all the kids should die, but 1 to 3 would be okay. David Harbour, they already thought he died previously, so he probably shouldn't die. The mom, I could see, maybe. She's been through a lot of shit. She hasn't died yet, but I could see her maybe dying. But hopefully it's not just like one person. That would be lame. I feel like more people than that should be dying. It's like, Endgame or Infinity War. A whole bunch of people died. I feel like this should be the same thing after all the years that people have spent investing in the show. How do you feel about Jay's current gear with the shorts? I don't really care either way. I mean, what was the other gear? Tights? Like, it looks cool. It doesn't make him look lazy or whatever, maybe, but, he looks cool, so whatever. If he wrestles like shit, then I don't really care what he's wearing. It's just more a matter of how good his matches are, in my opinion. Grunt said the same thing. He said Jericho beat Rock, Austin beat Angle, and then Jericho beat Austin. Okay, there you go. I thought Booker T was in there somehow. Zork said, how does 2011 look if Punk never drops the pipe bomb? There was still some good stuff that year. It would not have been as good, though. I feel like part of the reason they took a chance on Daniel Bryan winning Money in the Bank that year was because of CM Punk. I really do feel that way. I feel like Wade Barrett would have won otherwise. I feel like the year's a lot different. We still get Orton and Christian, and that match was amazing. The R-Truth heel turn was great. The new Nexus core shit sucked. That shit was awful. Mania still would have been bad. The Punk pipe bomb was in the middle of the year. We would have never gotten the 434-day title run. We would not have gotten that great Money in the Bank pay-per-view in Chicago. It would have still happened in Chicago, but the show probably would not have been nearly as good. There's still some good stuff about that year, but it does look a lot differently because of Punk in the latter half of that year. And it's one of my favorite years as a fan because of a lot of the Punk shit, but there's a lot of other good shit about that year as well that I enjoyed. Fernando said, are you watching Stranger Things' very last episode on IMAX in theaters? I'm getting my tickets in 2 weeks. Probably not. Maybe. I mean, is it only in IMAX or is it just in theaters? Like, I don't know how that's going to work. If it's in theaters, then maybe. The thing is, doesn't it drop on New Year's Eve? Like, are people really going to want to drive on New Year's Eve? That's kind of my question. I feel like that's a dangerous day to be driving at night because of all the, all the drunk drivers and whatnot. So I could totally see people not wanting to do it for that reason. If it's in theaters beyond New Year's Eve / New Year's Day, maybe on New Year's Day I would go. I don't know if it's a one night only thing. I feel like it's for like a week or whatever. I don't really care about seeing shit in IMAX. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm seeing Back to the Future later, actually, which is why I'm wearing this shirt. I'm seeing Back to the Future later in a theater for the second time. I said this on Back to the Future Day 2 weeks ago, but I saw it in a theater for the first time 10 years ago. The difference now is I'm seeing it in a theater in those D-box seats, the seats that move, so that'll be cool. But, yeah. So, I don't know. It's one of those things where if it's in theaters beyond New Year's Eve, seeing it on New Year's Eve would be cool, but like, is it only at night? Is it, I don't know. It would depend on the circumstance. And like I said, I don't really care about IMAX. I would just see it in any regular old theater for $5 that Tuesday if I could, but I'm not sure if that's how it's going to work. Fernando said he meant to say next month, not next week. I forgot what your question was, and that was in regards to, but I did correct you at the time, so I know what you mean. Do I think Dom and Ray reunite before Ray retires? I could see that, yeah. Especially if Dom goes babyface soon, I could totally see that. Fernando said Jericho being the first WWE Undisputed Champ. And I can also see Dom being the one to retire Rey Mysterio as well, by the way. But anyway, Fernando said Jericho being the first WWE Undisputed Champ instead of Stone Cold and The Rock was a stupid decision. But again, it was one of those things where he could carry it for the rest of his career. Jericho bragged and boasted about being the first ever Undisputed Champ and beating Stone Cold and Rock on the same night for a decade. Like, for years he bragged about that. So, honestly, I wasn't watching back then, but I think it was a cool decision. They tried to make Jericho into a world champion material, like a world champion level star. And he was, but the booking wasn't really there. He ended up losing it to Triple H at Mania. And then he would not win another world championship until, 2008? So it was a long time. It was a one and done thing, and then it was over. But no, I don't think Jericho losing it, or Jericho winning that belt was the wrong decision. I feel like that was a nice decision to switch things up. Because Rock and Stone Cold at that point held all the championships multiple times. It was nice to go with someone different for a change. Zork said, who is your favorite current commentary pair? Maybe Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett. Michael Cole, who does he work with? He's on Raw, right? Isn't it Michael? Oh, it's Michael Cole and Corey. I think Michael Cole and Corey are a great pairing. I think Joe's great. I think him and Wade are a great pairing. I don't care about Booker T at all. I think his commentary sucks. So my answer is not Vic Joseph and Booker T. Who else? In AEW, you got Bryan Danielson and Excalibur. Excalibur's fine. I like Danielson. I like Taz, but he's out right now. Shivani's fine these days. That's about it. TNA's pairing is who? Aiden English and or Matthew Renwell or whatever his name is, and the former Tom Hannafin. Tom Phillips is his old name, but he's now Tom Hannafin. They're good, but my favorite commentary duo was probably Joe Tessitore and Wade Barrett. Manuel said Ultimate Warrior's WWE title run is actually a bit infamous because he underperformed as a draw. Yes, he did. I am well aware of that. That's why they took the championship off of him at the Rumble the following year. Let me backtrack a little bit here. Hold on. Is Dork State working for you on NXT? Fernando asked. No, they're not. I think some of the guys in the group are talented. I just don't really care about the group as a group. I just don't. Nathaniel asked, who do you think wins between Breakker and Reigns at Mania? It should be fucking Breakker. Reigns beating Breakker, especially for a world championship, would be terrible. That would be fucking awful. Breakker needs to win. Fernando, and it's not one of those cases, by the way, where like Roman wins, but Breakker gets his win back. No, just have him fucking beat him. Like this whole long-term storytelling shit is stupid. They had Tiffany beat Charlotte, and that was it. No long-term story. Doesn't have to be a long-term story. Ended up being great anyway. So just have Breakker beat Reigns and call it a day. Fernando said, who should induct Cena in the Hall of Fame, and who should induct Rock into the Hall of Fame? Rock should be Stone Cold. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, who else would induct The Rock? I mean, maybe someone from his family. But the person most synonymous with The Rock in WWE is Stone Cold Steve Austin. So I can't see it being anyone else but Stone Cold Steve Austin. For John Cena, there's a few different people. I feel like it's going to be Randy Orton. You know, I know Edge is currently in AEW, but among his greatest rivals are Orton, Edge, Punk, AJ. He never really had, like, that one great tag team partner or whatever. Honestly, I could see it being, like, Stephanie or something like that. But Stephanie just inducted Triple H. Because Stephanie was influential and instrumental in her career, in his career, and getting him to where he was, and kind of seeing his potential, making sure he didn't get fired early on when he kind of got over in 02-03, specifically in 03. Yeah, so I would probably go, personally, I would go with Randy Orton. I feel like, with what I just said, I feel like Stone Cold is most synonymous with Rock, and Cena is most synonymous with Randy Orton. So that's what I would do. Will Logan Paul ever be world champion? I think so. I said this talking to Alexis about it last night. Honestly, in a nutshell, Logan Paul as a world champion doesn't bother me, just because I feel like he is good enough as a wrestler, or in the ring rather. There is a bit of a difference, because he's not like this great wrestler with psychology. Like he can have some fun matches. I could see him as world champion. The problem is, when he was United States champion, he was champion for 8 fucking months with like 2 or 3 title defenses. That cannot happen if he's world champion. He would need to be around. He shouldn't even be world champion for 8 months if he's world champion. It would have to be like a Rumble to Mania thing. It would have to make sense. It would have to be the right circumstance. I could absolutely see Logan Paul being world champion. Would I do it? Definitely not. Could I see it happening? Do I think it will happen? Probably yes. He's got so many world title shots at this point, which is also part of my problem with him facing Punk next, is that he's not believable. He already lost to Roman a few years ago. He lost to Cody Rhodes last year. He lost to Jey Uso for the World Heavyweight Championship 6 fucking months ago. He's not beating Jey Uso, or he's not beating CM Punk for that title either. So he's going to be 0-4 in world title matches. He's got to win at some point, but when he does, they better book it correctly and not, figure out his schedule and make sure he's there, because if he's not, it's going to be a big waste of time. Fernando says WWE is too scared to remove Ava Raine as the GM. Yeah, probably out of fear, they might feel the wrath of The Rock, her father. Fernando said, I thought I saw Jade versus Britt Baker have a match for the TBS Championship, and Jade won. Nope, they never had a match for the TBS Championship. You might be thinking of Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné. They had a match for the TBS Championship last year at All In. It was not a good match, probably one of Mercedes' weaker matches. Since coming to AEW, Mercedes won that, but no, Britt Baker and Jade never had a one-on-one match in AEW, at least on television, that I can recall. Fernando said, how would you feel if an NXT wrestler won the tournament to face Cena? Honestly, the only person that would make sense, I wouldn't hate that, the only person that would make sense is Obafemi. I think Javon Evans is great. Javon Evans is a lot of fun. Javon Evans is not winning, and he's not beating John Cena, and it's kind of a waste. I mean, I'm not saying John Cena needs to lose, but he probably should. Yeah, I think the only person from NXT that would make sense is Oba. Even like Trick, who I like, or Ricky, or anyone else from NXT, they don't feel like a believable threat to John Cena. Obafemi's been booked in such a way where he actually does. And that would be a hell of a way to have him debut on the main roster. Like, the other guys also are not done in NXT. So if they retire John Cena or even lose to Cena, they're going right back to NXT. The whole thing was a waste of time. So I would rather have it be someone that's on the main roster. Femi's ready for a call-up. You can make the argument for Trick. I just don't really see that. I've never really looked at Trick versus Cena as this dream match. I mean, I don't look at Femi versus Cena as a dream match either, but it would be quite the spectacle for Femi to go in there in his first PLE, quote-unquote, match in WWE and retire John Cena, and then stay on the main roster and then be pushed heavily from that point forward. I don't see that happening, but that would be interesting. What was the saddest death in Stranger Things? I didn't cry over any of them, so I couldn't tell you. The kid that died in the most recent season, Eddie Munson, right? I mean, that wasn't sad to me. It was unfortunate, but it wasn't like, oh my God, look, Eddie. Like, I don't care that much about the show where I'm crying over people dying. But I think people would probably say him. Fernando said, when Liv Morgan returns, should she be a heel or a babyface? She will be a babyface. She might come back as a heel, but they will get ousted from the Judgment Day, and they'll be both babyfaces, her and Dom both. Grunt with the Veer Super Chat with the Veer badge there in the chat. There you go. That's one of the perks of being a channel member. We are Veer fans here on WrestleRant, like I said, and you can see it right there in the chat. Veer will never stop coming. He will never stop coming here on the channel. Anyway, Grunt said, my Survivor Series team would be Bryan Danielson, Kurt Angle, Bret Hart, and either FTR or Steen and Jericho. What a fucking team that would be. That's an amazing team, Grunt. I mean, my team, that's not my team. I mean, I answered the question earlier as what my favorite, like what I think would be the best possible Survivor Series elimination match would be. If you're asking me for my team, my Survivor Series team of like my favorites, it would be CM Punk, William Regal, Christian, AJ Styles, and probably Jericho. All in their prime, obviously. But I feel like that would be an amazing fucking team. So, yeah, it would probably be Jericho, Christian, Regal, Punk, and AJ Styles for my personal Survivor Series team. Nathaniel said, how about Mike in Stranger Things dying? That would be sad. I forgot who Mike is. What if no one dies? I could also see no one dying as well, Nathaniel. I think there's a very distinct possibility of that happening. Did you hear there was supposed to be a Ben Solo movie, but it was given the hook? I did hear about that from Adam Driver. His idea honestly sounded cool. And the whole principle of like, oh, he died, but why would he be back? Listen, people come back in Star Wars all the time, and half the time it doesn't make sense. But if they brought him back to do that movie that he pitched, that honestly sounded cool. It was probably too cool for Disney, for Star Wars or whatever, so they nixed it, but honestly, I did hear about it, and it sounded like it was pretty sweet. Fernando said, should Randy turn on Cody or Cody turn on Randy? Randy totally turning on Cody. Cody, I would still not turn him heel soon. I know he used the chair on Saturday. The seeds are being planted. I would still not turn him heel right away. Randy, we have not seen as a heel in many years. Cody, same thing, but Randy as a heel, people have been waiting for it. I would turn Randy over Cody. They might cheer Randy over Cody. That's kind of part of the problem. I would still turn Randy over Cody. Fernando said, it's not just on IMAX. That's what I'm doing. My party days are over, so I am going on New Year's Eve. Hey, listen, I don't go to fucking parties either on New Year's Eve. I haven't in years. I'm just saying that people do tend to drive drunk. I don't go to parties anyway, but we just typically stay home. You know what I mean? Like, we don't really do much. I also have been advised against that I'm just not comfortable driving at like midnight on New Year's Eve. I might not be coming from a party or going to a party, but driving, at least, and everywhere is different. I don't live in a city or anything, but still, I don't really feel comfortable driving. I don't even think Alexis would even want to. I would probably have to go on New Year's Day or some other point after that. Talking about the Doomsday trailer, Fernando said. Grunt's favorite commentary team is Excalibur, Danielson, and Taz. It's a good combo. They're a good combo. Grunt also said, yeah, same with Eddie Guerrero, unfortunately. He really stressed out over that. Over not being like, what, the guy? Yeah. Fernando said, when you saw your first movie with The Rock, did you know he was a former wrestler? That's a good question. I saw the game plan. This was before I started watching wrestling. I did. I knew him as The Rock. I definitely knew him as a wrestler because I think I would have known that anyway. But like we had an N64 at my grandmother's house that I think is still there. My grandmother had an N64 in her basement that my cousin gave to her 25, 30 years ago. And it had No Mercy on it in the WCW game. So I knew of some wrestlers in that game. I think I would have already knew who The Rock was anyway as a former wrestler. But he was in that game, in the No Mercy game, so I would have known about him from that too. Before seeing him in The Game Plan. I'm sure I would have seen him in another movie, but the first movie I can remember seeing with him in it that I watched or went to the theater to see was, I'm pretty sure, was The Game Plan in late 07. Fernando asking, are you and Alexis enjoying Welcome to Derry? We are. She was not sold on it because, and I get it, because, you know, the whole IP thing, like, oh, we're making another spin-off, a fucking sequel, a prequel. They do all this shit. No real, very few actual original ideas. But it looked promising. It looked cool. And I was going to watch it regardless. I encouraged her to watch it with me. She did. She ended up loving the first episode. We watched the second episode. That was also good too. We're hooked. We're into the show. We also just recently rewatched The Shining, which we've all seen before. We watched it years ago, and she's seen it a time or two as well. But we're kind of in the Stephen King mood at this point. We've seen the It movies as well, so that was also part of the reason why I wanted to watch the show. But yeah, we're really liking the show so far. It's a great show on Max. Johnny said, is Paul Heyman the greatest manager of all time? That nod might still go to Bobby Heenan. I mean, people might say Paul Heyman, but, excuse me, I'm getting like congested a little bit. Not like congested, but like sometimes if I'm talking for too long, my nose kind of gets like weird. But anyway, I think that nod would still go to Bobby Heenan. I would say Paul Heyman, maybe. Paul Heyman's a close second. We might have to wait until all is said and done. But Heenan was also a manager during a much more prosperous time for wrestling in the WWE, where it was much more impressive to be managing these world champions and big stars and whatnot. I'll go Bobby Heenan. Paul Heyman's a very close second, which is why he calls himself an advocate, because he knows he himself will never be better than Bobby Heenan. But you can make the argument for Heyman. He's certainly up there. For Heyman, that is. Johnny said, do you want to see Tiffany versus Andrea in WWE or AAA? No, I don't think we need any drama between Ludwig's current and former girlfriends. So, no, I'm all set on that. I don't even think she wrestles anyway. I think she's just an interviewer. Yeah, Fernando said Bobby the Brain is my best manager ever. I would probably agree with that. Let me backtrack a little bit here. Grunt said, if this was a just world, he said, he would lose his lawsuit with CoffeeZilla and end up in a jail cell, before he could win a world title. Yeah, Logan Paul ain't going to jail. He's definitely been, accused and guilty of a lot of shit that should probably end up, have him end up behind bars. I think we all know that ain't going to happen. But I see where you're coming from, Grunt. Alexis is indeed right. Veer came. He came, but he's still, for some reason, he's still coming. Like, I know he's a monk somewhere. He had a whole fucking movie made about him, and WWE did nothing with him, whatever. But he is still coming. He will never stop coming. Who is the best female manager of all time? Probably Miss Elizabeth. I feel like she's number one. The fact she's not in the Hall of Fame is kind of garbage. Her, Sensational Sherry, like from recent years, who else would even come close? Like, not fucking Lana, you know what I mean? Like, who else would even come close? I don't know. I would say Miss Elizabeth, personally. I feel like she was a big part of the success of the Macho Man act back in the day. Sherry's also up there for all the people that she managed, including Macho Man and Shawn Michaels. I would probably go Miss Elizabeth. Fernando said, I'm sick of fans saying that Edge is coming back to face Cena. They need to go back to school and learn how contracts work, or quit pretending they don't know how the world works. I really don't know why people think Edge is coming back to WWE for this John Cena retirement tour. People are so fucking stupid. First of all, he's still under contract to AEW. But even if he wasn't, like, they're not going to work with AEW to get Edge as part of this tournament. A couple things here. Cena and Edge as Cena's final match, I'm not even really a big fan of that. I mean, it would have been nice on Cena's retirement tour, but for his final match, I'm kind of good. The match would probably be garbage, so no. Second of all, people are so fucking dumb because think about it. Cena's final opponent has to be determined in a tournament. Edge is not returning to call out Cena on Raw, and then we just magically get the match. Edge would have to wrestle on Raw or SmackDown. Do you think Edge makes his grand return after only 2 years away? He comes back and wrestles on fucking Raw against like Shinsuke Nakamura? No. Edge is not returning to WWE now. He's not returning at all, but even if he could, they're not going to bring back Edge or even Jericho for that matter. Like, if this wasn't a tournament, then maybe. But, like, they're not going to hold a tournament where Jericho or Edge... maybe Jericho, but I doubt Jericho's contract is even up right now anyway. Jericho sounds like his contract won't be up for the foreseeable future. Not until, like, maybe, like, January, okay? Or February or whatever. But Edge is not coming back to wrestle on Raw. Raw! Against fucking Rusev, just so he can face Cena at Saturday night's main event. And then on top of all of that, people are creaming themselves over the idea of him facing Cena. And then as soon as that's over, people will go back to not giving a fuck that Edge is back in WWE. Because there's nothing really for him to do. So the answer is no. Johnny said, AJ, Will, Okada, Kurt, Shawn Michaels would be my dream Survivor Series team in their prime. That's a pretty good team. Do you go to 4th of July and Thanksgiving events? Yes and no. Yes and no. On 4th of July, I don't really go to parties. We've just kind of spent the day with family usually. My family or Alexis's family. That's really it. Thanksgiving, I'm typically just with my own family. That's really the extent of it. That's about it. I don't really go anywhere else on Thanksgiving. We don't really go anywhere else on Thanksgiving. I don't really want to be honest with you. I'd rather just be with my family and have that be it. That's really about it. I enjoy having relaxing holidays where I don't have to fucking go out. For Christmas, same thing. We'll spend it with our families, but I will go see my extended family. Like we have a big Christmas party every year on Christmas Eve. That I enjoy going to. That's an annual tradition. But yeah, that's the day before Christmas, though. On Christmas itself, I typically like to do nothing. Emmanuel said, regarding Star Wars, the Ben Solo movie might have been luckier if the Han Solo movie performed better. Yeah, probably. I think they would have been more open to the idea of doing more Solo spin-offs if the Solo movie did better. They were all excited. I mean, they announced a Kenobi movie, a Boba Fett movie, and they scrapped all of it. Like, we got a Boba Fett show. We got a Kenobi show. We got Andor, thankfully, but that was a show. I mean, we got Rogue One, but it seemed like they were all jazzed over the idea of doing spin-offs, and Rogue One was excellent, better than any of the sequel movies. And then Solo happened, and Episode 8 and 9 happened, and they just completely fell off a fucking cliff. And, like, they were just like, yep, we're not doing any more movies for the next 6 to 7 years. And we're done. So, yeah, those movies kind of ruined it for a while. And then they completely shifted to streaming because then Disney Plus came around and that was like the new sexy thing. Like, oh, we got to put everything on streaming and whatever, which was fun for a while. And it's like now we want stuff back in theaters. But yeah, that's probably why. If the Solo movie did better, we definitely would have gotten... I don't think Book of Boba Fett would have been a show. I think that would have been a movie. Same thing with The Mandalorian or the Obi-Wan Kenobi show and all that other sort of stuff. Johnny said, besides Billy Butcher, do you see any other members of the boys being killed in Season 5? I am sure. Of the boys, I mean, Homelander isn't a part of the boys, but Homelander should die next season, last season. Billy Butcher probably dies. I could see someone else dying. I don't know who that would be, but I could see Butcher and Homelander dying for sure. That pickle jar scene in the store was crazy as hell. Yeah, that was cool from the most recent episode of Welcome to Derry. That was well done. Alexis was most creeped out by the people kind of leaning in from the aisleways. She doesn't like that sort of shit. That kind of like makes her, she gets scared by that. So I thought that was well done. That was definitely creepy. Do you want to see a Terminator TV show? I'm going to blow your people's minds here. I have never seen any of the Terminator movies. Okay, like, I have to go back and watch them. I've heard T2 is one of the greatest movies / sequels of all time. I don't know if it will be for me when I watch the movies. I think I will probably like them. I have never seen them, so I don't care about a show if I haven't seen the movies. I don't think everything has to be made into a show. Let's say that much. Paul Bearer was also a great WWE manager. Yes, he was, Nathaniel. Is Veer, he's been coming forever. He will never stop coming, Fernando. Veer will never stop coming. Nathaniel said, Edge went to AEW to team with Christian, and they got a great thing going. Yeah, there's no reason to interrupt that. They literally just reunited. You think Tony Khan would put them back together for a month or two only to allow Edge's contract to expire? Give me a break. He's out filming the next season, I think, of that Percy Jackson show anyway. I really wish Edge was on TV right now so people were not thinking he was going back to WWE. That would be nice. Johnny said, my dream team for Anarchy in the Arena. Moxley, Mick Foley, Terry Funk, New Jack, Sabu, and Sandman. That's a pretty hardcore fucking team right there. Grunt said, what could WWE even give AEW to justify Tony lending out Edge to them? We've said this before, but like AJ Styles maybe. Like an AJ Styles match in AEW I think would be honestly to me that would be a worthy trade. Imagine if they force like Punk to go back to AEW. That would be worthy, but like WWE would have to be okay with AJ losing to one of their people. Because Edge is not going back to WWE and fucking winning. John Cena would beat him. Edge is not beating John Cena. I don't think anyway. But like I said, it wouldn't even make sense because if they allowed Edge to go back to WWE, it would have to be for the entire tournament. We're getting a tournament. They're not allowing Edge to work 5 matches. They're not even allowing Edge to work there at all because WWE wouldn't allow it either. But I'm just saying he would have to work like a whole fucking month full of matches. Would AJ go to AEW for a month? Like that's not going to happen. The AJ Styles thing is the only thing I can think of that AEW would even want from WWE. For someone that they could use, to me, that would be worth it. Beyond that, maybe not. Anyway. Fernando said, who would you rank higher, I think is what you mean, between the Usos, New Day, and the Hardy Boys? I mean, the Hardy Boys are the undisputed number one. Undisputed number one. Hardy Boys are a far better tag team overall than the Usos or New Day. Much more longevity, other promotions, better, more memorable matches. I would go Hardy Boys. Between the Usos and New Day, I go Usos over New Day. I think Usos are a better team than New Day. I think New Day is great. New Day is one of the greatest factions of all time. But best tag team, I would go Usos. New Day's in the conversation, but Usos are definitely over New Day in my book. Grunt said, an Anarchy team. He said he thinks he would go with Stone Cold Steve Austin, Samoa Joe, and the Miracle Violence connection, that being Dr. Death Steve Williams and Terry Gordy. That's a fucking team and a half right there, Grunt. I would not want to mess with that team. Fernando said, besides Jinder, is Kofi the most forgettable WWE champion, or is there another? No, he's not. I mean, come on. There's Sean Stasiak. There are people who held it for, like, days back in the 90s and 80s, like, literal days. Kofi had a much more memorable run than, let me check my notes, fucking Sean Stasiak. If I gave you a list to fill out every former WWE champion ever, you are going to forget Sean Stasiak. You are going to forget, I mean, Kofi, I don't think people would forget. For Kofi Mania alone, and I thought the reign was good anyway. It was a pretty good run. But come on. People would remember Kofi Kingston over Sean Stasiak. People remember when he fucking lost to Brock Lesnar, so it's not that forgettable. I mean, the fact that Jinder was ever a champion is forgettable because that reign sucked so bad that people kind of remember the reign. But what else was more forgettable than as WWE champion? I would say Braun Strowman. His reign as world champion happened entirely during COVID. But that wasn't the WWE title. That was the Universal Championship. So in recent years, honestly, I hate to say this, but I could see people forgetting that Bobby Lashley was WWE champion because it kind of happened during a point where the product sucked. He held it for a while in 2021. He had a very good run. But if you're going to call Kofi forgettable as champion, Bobby Lashley was also forgettable as champion. He won the belt back for like 2 weeks in 2022. So if you're going to call Big E is another one. I mean, you mentioned Big E for something else, Fernando. But again, if you're going to call Kofi the most forgettable champion, you're forgetting Bobby. Big E, people might forget was champion. they're all really in the same realm as far as how they were booked. I don't think any of them are that forgettable. Are they more forgettable than fucking John Cena and CM Punk and Roman Reigns? Obviously, yes. But I don't think they're that forgettable. I think anyone that lived through those runs would remember those people at least winning the championship once. Fernando asked, would you be upset if Back to the Future got rebooted? Yes, because it has no business being rebooted and it would probably be shit anyway. So absolutely not. It is a perfect movie as it is. Do not fucking touch it. Does Edge need to be more lenient as far as what, Zork? What, putting people over? Because he's put plenty of people over. I mean, that's been disputed before. It's a bullshit rumor. Lenient as far as what goes? I mean, he's been pretty fucking lenient with some of the stuff he's done and been involved in for the last 5 years since he came back to wrestling. So, I don't know what you mean by that. Johnny said, my dream Money in the Bank would be Eddie versus Sabu versus Jeff Hardy versus Will Ospreay versus AJ Styles versus Edge. It's a pretty good Money in the Bank match. Yeah, exactly, Grunt. Grunt said, guys like Slaughter, Big Show, people would forget that Big Show is WWE champion, and Sean Stasiak, who I mentioned, are far more forgettable than as WWE champion than Kofi. I completely agree. Completely agree. Kane is a far more forgettable champion. I mean, it was a pretty memorable win when he beat Stone Cold at that King of the Ring pay-per-view. He lost the belt in a fucking day. A lot of people would forget that Kane was WWE champion. Way more than Kofi. Way more than Kofi. I guess it depends on who you ask. Fernando asked, is Big E for sure done as a wrestler in your opinion? No. I think he is done as an active performer. Could I see Big E coming back at some point down the road for like a 6-man tag team match, like a one-off? Yeah. You can't ever say, I mean, his injury was extremely serious. I'm not saying it's not. But for people like him, honestly, who is a name, like Tyson Kidd, Jason Jordan, they're really not big stars. Like, them ever wrestling again is not going to happen because WWE, they're not big stars. But they have since cleared Daniel Bryan, Edge, Sting. I mean, he was in AEW, but Paige, AEW, all these other people. Corey Graves got cleared. Hasn't wrestled, but he's gotten cleared. All of these people have gotten cleared. If those people got cleared, Steve Austin, among other people, and they've wrestled again, nothing to me is stopping Big E from wrestling again. I think he still could at some point down the road. No time soon. It sounds like he's done anytime soon. But down the road for sure, if only for a one-off. I have said that from the very beginning, and I am sticking with that opinion. Johnny said, my dream elimination chamber would be The Rock, Bret Hart, Ken Shamrock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Mankind, and CM Punk. Yeah, it's a pretty good match. It's a pretty fucking stacked chamber. Richie said, I was gone for an hour from my bi-weekly therapy session, and you're still online. Richie, you should not be surprised. We've had shows before. First of all, thank you for coming back. And second of all, we started early today, so that's why we're still here. And second of all, we've had streams that go 3+ hours. So honestly, we haven't even touched the scheduled questions yet. We will probably go almost 3 hours today. We are already at what? Let me check the clock here. Over 2 hours and 15 minutes. Yeah, I'm not aiming for it, but I'm just saying logically we will probably hit the 3-hour mark. I appreciate all the activity in the chat here today. Emmanuel said, related to Jinder, I saw an interview where he debunked the narrative that he was WWE champion to attract India, and he just believes Vince pushed him because of how much he bulked up. I would agree with that. I would totally believe that. I saw where he said that. I saw the actual clip. It was on Inside the Ropes, I believe. I saw the actual clip of him saying it. The clip went up on YouTube like a week or two ago. Yeah. I could totally see that being the reason as to why he won the title. So, yeah, I could believe that. Fernando said, Back to the Future 2 or 3 is a better sequel, 2. I like 3. The Western thing is good. I don't know if you can see it, but I have the Western picture up there. That picture framed is the picture of Doc and Marty from Back to the Future 3 that they give to them in that movie. My brother got that for me as a Christmas gift a few years ago. Anyway, I think 2 is better, though. Johnny said, it's also one of the greatest movies of all time. Johnny said, my dream submission match would be Brett versus Sabre. I could think of better submission matches than Brett versus Sabre, but that would be a good match. He also said Brett versus Bryan. Grunt said, Stan Stasiak, Graham. LMAO, you're thinking of his son Sean, who was a WCW guy. There you go, proving my fucking point. That is how memorable Stan Stasiak was his WWE champion, that I'm calling him Sean. Wasn't that the guy that was called Meat at one point in WWE in like the late 90s? Fucking Meat, who faced Kurt Angle in his WWE debut years later. Anyway. Nathaniel said, who do you think Bret Hart's best rival is? Good question. I think people would say Sean. I'm tempted. Honestly, I don't even think Sean is top 2. It's got to be either Stone Cold or Owen. I might go Owen. I feel like their feud really elevated Bret up to main event status in 94. They had great matches. And they're also brothers, so their chemistry was unreal. I mean, the Stone Cold matches were great, and that also elevated Stone Cold, but not as much Bret. Bret was already a made guy at that point. I might go Owen. I mean, there's other people you can include. I'm going to say Owen Hart. But you really could pick almost any of those 3 people, and I feel like you'd be right. Johnny said, who are your 4 big wrestlers? And also maybe Triple H for as much as he shits on them too. Who are your 4 big wrestlers, past and present, you would put in a meat 4-way? Big E's always wanted the meat 4-way with Goldberg, so let's say Big E, Goldberg, Brock Lesnar. For big meaty men slapping meat, I don't know. Andre, I guess? What a fucking match that would be. What a train wreck that match would be. Richie said, I left the stream up and running for watch time and algorithm purposes, of course. Thank you, Richie. I appreciate that. What a smart man. Richie's a genius. I already knew that, but that just proved what I already knew. Fernando said, more memorable Hell in the Cell match. The debut of Kane, you mean the debut of Kane? Or Mick Foley getting thrown out of the cage? Mick Foley getting thrown out of the cage. Kane had the better debut, obviously. In that first, the better match is Shawn versus Taker with Kane's debut. That's the better Cell match. The more memorable match, people will point to Mick Foley getting thrown off, is the greatest, and it is the greatest Cell moment of all time. So, that is more memorable. 5 current female wrestlers that you would put against a prime Alundra Blaze. I have no fucking clue. I mean, really, any of the 4 horsewomen? I don't know. Alundra Blaze was great, but like, are there any matches of hers that I would consider dream matches? Not really. So any of the current women in WWE, I guess. Who comes up with meat as a wrestling name? Vince McMahon. That's who. Dream tag team match. Bret and Owen versus Jeff and Matt. That would be a great match. That would be a great battle of the brothers. Am I watching Predator Badlands? Yes. I will most likely see it next Tuesday. On $5 Tuesday. That is the plan. I could see it this weekend. That's a possibility. I don't know. I care about the movie, but it's not like, oh, I need to avoid spoilers by seeing it on Thursday. Like, I feel that way about Marvel movies and certain other movies. I don't feel that way about this. I might just wait until next Tuesday. That could change, but as of now, I'm probably seeing it next Tuesday. Johnny said, Hart Foundation versus FTR in a 2 out of 3 falls. That match would also be a dream match, and that match would also be fucking awesome. So I agree with you on that. Fernando, which women's wrestler got your attention first in 2008? Great question. Probably Maurice. Maurice was, is, and always will be hot. She was always, she's always been attractive. So probably Maurice, her, and Eve. I always thought Eve, she's a very pretty girl too. But she didn't really wrestle all that much in 08. So I can't really say her as my number 1 because she was only a backstage interviewer at that point. Maurice was actually wrestling at that point in 2008. So I would say definitely Maurice on SmackDown. Johnny said, dream tag team match, The Beautiful People versus Layla and Michelle McCool. It's not a dream match, but it is a match that makes sense. I don't know how good the actual match would be. Because basically, Lay Cool was WWE's version of The Beautiful People. They copied The Beautiful People with Lay Cool. You can't convince me otherwise. Because they saw how well it worked for TNA. Fernando says, who do you think was better between Eddie Guerrero or Rey Mysterio? Good question. I would go Eddie. I think Eddie's a better overall performer than Rey. If you say Rey, it's not like an egregious thing to say, but if I had to pick between the two, I'm going Eddie Guerrero. All right, so what we're going to do now is answer these scheduled questions. 2+ hours into this video. We'll go to the scheduled questions now. We will either answer some of these or all of these, and then I will go back to the chat. So keep sending in your chats, send in your comments, send in your questions. I will read through all of them after we are done with either this portion of the scheduled questions or all of the scheduled questions. And in the meantime, like I said earlier, be sure to like the video. All that stuff is greatly appreciated. All right. And I'll tell you at the end of the video how always you can send in your questions ahead of time for me to answer here on the show, regardless of whether you're live or not. Jordan B. from YouTube, their question was, how would you rank all of the Undisputed Era War Games matches? For me, it would be, this is in his opinion, he says for him it would be number 1, 2019 against Ciampa, Dijak, Lee, and Kevin Owens. 2, 2018 against Ricochet, Dunn, and War Raiders. 3, 2020 against Team Pat McAfee, and 4, 2017 against Sanity and AOP and Roderick Strong. So I agree with your list. I would keep 1 for best Undisputed Era War Games matches. I would do number 1, the 2019 one. Kevin Owens being like a mystery partner for them was great. It was a Chicago crowd. Or no, was that Chicago? Yeah, that was Chicago. That was a great show, great match. So I would go that one as number 1. I agree with your number 2. But I would switch 3 and 4. I would put the 2020 match last. It was a very good War Games, but it also happened in front of no fans or like limited fans or whatever at the fucking PC. It just didn't have the same vibe as it would have in front of fans. 2017 was the first WWE War Games match ever. So it already was exciting and already a great match anyway. I would put that at 3 and the 2021 at 4. Fresh Fly from YouTube. How would you book CM Punk's title reign? I mentioned this earlier through someone else's chat, but I would have CM Punk hold it till the Rumble and lose it to Braun Breaker. Not every run has to be 6 months. Punk and Breaker, to me, is a good match for Mania. It's not the match for Mania. I think Roman and Breaker is better. I would not have Roman win the Rumble before anyone asks. Punk doesn't have to hold it for all that long. I would put the belt on Breaker on the sooner side. If it was up to me, I would have put the belt on Breaker from the get-go, but whatever. Right after Rollins had to vacate it, but Punk's got it now. Fine by me. He can lose it by the Rumble. That's a long enough run for Punk. And then maybe Punk goes on to win the Rumble anyway and face Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania. Who knows? His second question. Should the Death Riders kick Jon Moxley out and replace him with Karrion Kross and Scarlett, ultimately turning Moxley back into a babyface? We would also get good matches between Kross and Mox, which we have not seen yet in any major wrestling promotion. Interesting theory. I don't think the Death Riders are any better off with Karrion Kross, who I like, as their manager. So you'd have to kick out Marina Shafir too, because you're not going to have Scarlett in there and Marina Shafir. You'd have to kick out Marina. I would just get rid of the Death Riders in general. Could we be headed in the direction of the Death Riders kicking Moxley out for constant losses? Yes, that is very possible. Would I replace him though? No. The Death Riders as a whole should be fucking gone. The group sucks. They've improved, but I still don't give a shit about the group. Putting Kross in there, I think is a downgrade. I like Karrion Kross, but we kind of saw in WWE, like I like the idea of him having his own faction, but Final Testament was always a job faction. Now, could it be different in AEW? Maybe. I honestly do not see Karrion Kross in the eyes of AEW fans, that being a significant upgrade. I honestly do not think AEW fans want anything to do with Karrion Kross. What he does, his style, is not the AEW cup of tea. He didn't go there the last time he got fired. I don't think this would be any different. He should not be the new leader of the group. It would be intriguing, but like Karrion Kross and Jon Moxley, would that match even be fucking interesting? Honestly, like, Kross had matches in WWE. Now, again, I like Kross, but he had matches in WWE with Sami Zayn, among other people, that were not all that interesting. I don't see a Mox match with Karrion Kross being all that great either. His third question. Who in WWE currently do you think has the ruthless aggression to be able to carry WWE for the next 20 years like John Cena did? To carry WWE for the next 20 years, someone on the younger side, it's got to be Braun Breaker. Got to be Braun Breaker. I mean, who else is that young that could be the next guy? Braun Breaker, we talked about a week or two ago, will be the guy. Not tomorrow, but eventually, probably soon. But I could see him being in WWE for the next 20 years like John Cena has been. I mean, John Cena's 48, 49 now. Braun Breaker by that point will be close to that, if not a little bit younger. So the answer's got to be Braun Breaker. Maybe Obafemi, but I think Femi's already 30, maybe 29. Either Femi or Breaker, but I'm tempted more so to say Breaker. Emmanuel A. from YouTube. He was here in the chat earlier, but he's got some YouTube questions as well. First one being, do you remember what your first impression was of WWE commentary? More specifically, did you ever have strong feelings for or against WWE commentary when you started watching in the late 2000s? You know, I really didn't. I was not sitting there thinking, oh, the commentary is so fucking bad. Like, I really didn't care about that. I don't think it was really until I started listening to wrestling podcasts and hearing what other people had to say and being on social media until I was like, yeah, you know what? The commentary kind of sucks. In 08 and 09, it was fine. The commentary did not take a turn for the worse, and I probably didn't even really start to notice the commentary was a problem until Mick Foley was a fine commentator when I started watching, but he left commentary really right when I started watching in 08, and then he went to TNA. It wasn't until 2010, when Michael Cole went heel, that I first started to realize, yeah, the commentary is awful. I mean, Michael Cole is not great, but this heel thing is terrible. With him favoring The Miz all the time, it was unbearable. And Jerry Lawler was not much better. I couldn't even tell you who the SmackDown team was at that point. I think it was Josh Matthews and Matt Stryker. The commentary really was not great in retrospect. But the Raw team was terrible. I mean, Michael Cole as a heel was just an awful period for commentary between late 2010 and late 2012 when Jerry Lawler had the heart attack. Commentary was largely not good because of heel Michael Cole. So that was really when I first started having some thoughts on WWE commentary. Prior to that point, I don't really think I thought much of it. His second question, do you remember the 2009 CM Punk Undertaker feud, and have you heard the rumor of CM Punk getting backstage heat for getting into an argument with The Undertaker about not dressing nicer, quote-unquote, in public? Story goes that Undertaker criticized Punk for only wearing casual clothes during CM Punk's main event push, to which Punk argued that John Cena was also wearing casual clothes in public. Punk seemingly lost his push, losing the World Heavyweight Championship in a 10-minute opener at the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view after closing the previous 4 pay-per-views, because he talked back and compared himself to John Cena. For his part, Undertaker has confirmed the story but denied the idea that he personally developed the heat against Punk for it. Yeah, I heard about it. Not only have I heard about that, I remember reading it at the time. I was reading dirt sheets within months of starting watching wrestling, especially by late 09. I remember reading that report and not being shocked when Punk lost the championship in swift fashion to Taker at Hell in the Cell in a very quick opener, and Punk not being a world title guy again after that until 2011. They demoted Punk back to the mid-card after that, and he was not the same, booking-wise. He was great as the Straight Edge Society leader, but he was never again, portrayed or booked as a world champion for a while until 2011 when he really got himself over. And even he only won the world championship in 2011 because he got himself over with the whole pipe bomb thing and whatnot. But anyway, yeah, I remember that. I'm glad that Taker confirmed it. Of course, he's going to deny getting heat on Punk. Like, that was not his intention. But of course, because the powers that be see how Taker responded to the situation, Taker wasn't the one who probably got Punk, he wasn't the one responsible for getting heat on Punk purposely. But, powers that be probably saw what Taker said to Punk or however he acted towards Punk, and they were like, oh yeah, Punk should not be world champion, like, whatever, and they buried him because of how Taker talked to Punk. Not that Taker wanted heat on Punk, but he was probably part of the reason why Punk did end up getting buried, whether he knows it or not, or whether he takes responsibility for it or not. No L from Facebook, their first question was, and also before we go forward, I was thinking too, I was hoping they would bring that up again when they feuded in 2013 going into WrestleMania. They never did, I don't think. I don't think they ever acknowledged that because that was when Taker was still supernatural. He would not have confirmed or denied it. They instead went the different route with Paul Bearer dying and Punk taking his ashes and disrespecting Paul Bearer. That was the whole crux of their storyline in 2013. No L from Facebook. Can we agree that Triple H And Randy Orton's match at WrestleMania 25 should have been last man standing instead of a singles match. Yeah, they ended up having a last man standing match. They've had a few last man standing matches over the years. That would have made the match more interesting. But unless Orton won, it probably would have been equally as boring. If not, it would have been a little bit better, but probably still remembered as being bad if Triple H won as decisively as he did anyway on that night. Another Triple H related question from Noel on Facebook. They said, who in your honest opinion has Triple H wasted on the main roster, be it men's or women's wrestlers? CM Punk's pipe bomb in 2011 is aging like fine wine. A lot of Triple H hate here today from Noel, but from Triple H, who has he wasted? We've answered this question before. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Chad Gable, they really could have done more with, especially when he turned heel and was really hot there last year. I was not a fan of how they failed to capitalize on Chad Gable. Ricochet, they could have booked better. I thought he was booked well under Triple H, but not as good to the point where he was convinced to stay. Ricochet was just kind of in a spot at that point, so where he was not going to be taken seriously beyond how he was already booked in the main roster, so it was probably best for him to leave. Santos Escobar, he booked him well for like the first year, and then after Mania last year, he just did fucking nothing with them. Absolutely nothing with Escobar. Andrade, for the time that he was there, could have booked him a little bit better. I don't know if waste is the right word, but he could have booked him better. There's certainly other people that he wasted, I don't know if is the right term. There's certain people he has underutilized. For people that he's wasted, Theory, he fucking wasted. I will absolutely use that word for Austin Theory. Because Theory actually had momentum post Vince McMahon coming into the Triple H era. Triple H completely fucked Theory and has not booked him well since. And that was over 2.5 years ago. So Theory might be the biggest example of someone that's been wasted under Triple H. Christopher L. from Facebook, their first question was, first of all, his birthday was yesterday, by the way. Happy belated to Christopher. I was going to send you a message on Facebook, but I already said this to you in a comment on Facebook, but I try to send you a message through my Facebook page, but it doesn't allow me to send messages or something for some reason, but happy belated regardless. He said, hello, Graham. Hope everything is awesome and hope you had a wonderful Halloween. Had a fantastic birthday yesterday, so I'm doing awesome myself, he says. Last week, I thought about an old TNA stable that didn't really have a long enough run. That group is World Elite from 2009 to 2010. The idea of it was good. A group of heel wrestlers of different cultures joined together to fight the babyfaces. I didn't mind it, but in August of 2009, they decided to align a partnership with the Main Event Mafia. And in just one night, they blew the whole storyline over in one night when the babyface locker room and the aligning stables had a gigantic brawl that went on for over 20 minutes. On top of that, they had an idiotic heel turn when Homicide turned on Hernandez that same night, closing out the show to align with their team, or the team, which made zero sense. After that, I have no remembrance of anything they did until their split the following year. Do you remember the stable? Why didn't it pan out the way that it should have? What was your thought of the TNA riot on August 5th, 2009? Was the aligning with the Main Event Mafia completely pointless, and who benefited from the group? A lot of questions there, but so I wasn't really watching TNA all that closely at that point. We had just moved, my family had just moved, and where we moved to, we didn't have like standard television, or when we did, I didn't have like DVR, and I was not watching TNA live, especially when I went back to school. I started school again that fall. TNA was on too late for me, so I was not watching TNA. I would have to follow along with stuff that was like online or on YouTube or whatever. I think I remember the brawl. I don't remember if I watched it live. I feel like I did. The World Elite thing did have potential. They completely fucked it. Main Event Mafia was on their way out anyway. They were just about to end the group. So having them aligned with the Main Event Mafia was kind of pointless because Main Event Mafia had lost a few of their members and they were just about to end the group I think that October anyway at Bound for Glory. Honestly, really beyond that one brawl, I remember almost nothing about World Elite. The only things I remember about World Elite was what I read about when TNA was airing at that point. I was not really watching the shows. I didn't really care about World Elite. I know Eric Young was like the leader. He ended up getting betrayed, I think, by Kevin Nash or whatever. I don't know. It was kind of a mess of a stable. There were people in the group that I liked, but most of what they did, I just don't remember. TNA had so many fucking stables at that point between World Elite, Main Event Mafia. They had the front line. It wasn't long before they debuted Immortal. They had so many factions, it was hard to care. And World Elite never really got off the ground. It was just kind of a failed experiment. Your next question, which was the better of The Undertaker's WrestleMania matches? His match with Punk at 29 or his match with Bray at 31? Christopher, this is not even a question. Obviously, it's the Punk match at 29. The Bray Wyatt match at 31 was good. The CM Punk match was excellent. That was Taker's last truly great Mania match in front of fans. Actually, that's not true. And actually, that is true. That was Taker's last truly great WrestleMania match in front of fans. I was going to say the end of an era Hell in a Cell match, but that was actually the year prior at 28. His match at 30 with Brock sucked. The match with Bray was good, but not excellent in the same way the Punk match was. The Shane match was a mess at 32. The Roman match at 33 sucked. 34, he did not wrestle. Or no, he did. He faced Cena, but in 2 minutes at Mania. 34. 35, he did not wrestle. In 36, he had the Boneyard match, which was great, but it had no fans. So his last truly great match, like actual wrestling match in front of fans at Mania, was the Punk match, not the Bray match, which was good, but not great. And the feud was disappointing as Taker was not around for any of it until he showed back up at Mania. Next question from Christopher. What are the possibilities of AEW ever doing an AEW-only pay-per-view in Japan? I would say pretty high. They've done exclusive shows in London now for All In. They've done pay-per-views or like TV specials in Australia. I think there's a decent chance they would do one in Japan. I think they get to Japan to do a pay-per-view there or an AEW-only event before WWE does. They already work with New Japan anyway. So you say AEW only, so it's not a forbidden door. I would say it's very likely we can get a forbidden door over in Japan at some point. But if it's not forbidden door and it's just an AEW only show, I would still say it's much more likely than WWE doing it, which is still inevitable, beyond house shows and shit, like televised. Probably at some point. I think an AEW show over in Japan, even if it's not live, it would have to be taped. I think is a very real possibility eventually. His last question here, Jey Uso. This is about the headline question of the video here. Jey Uso has been vocal about his criticism lately, being labeled an entrance, and especially after his performance on Saturday, which he was labeled as slow and lethargic, and the match was very mixed. I have said this before, that while I like the guy personally, professionally, I'm just not sold on him as a main event guy. I don't like the yeet movement at all. I find a lot of his matches to be not very good and over-reliant on stipulations to hide his shortcomings, and his world title run just wasn't booked right from the start. What do you think? Should WWE cool the jets for a bit on the main event Jey Uso experiment? And if so, what should be his next program? So I don't think Jey Uso's days as a main eventer are over, to answer that question. But I do think they should phase him out of the world title scene for the foreseeable future. He has now gotten how many fucking shots this year? I mean, he first challenged for the championship at Saturday Night's Main Event back in January and lost. That alone was embarrassing. But then he did win the Rumble the following week, which was great. He won the belt at Mania, which was great. He had a little bit of a run with it. He only held it for like 6 weeks. I would argue he didn't really need to hold it for much longer than that. I thought Jey Uso's world title run, in my opinion, was actually perfectly booked. He was a good underdog champion, had one successful title defense under his belt against Logan Paul, which was a fine match. He faced Rollins on Raw for the championship, which was fun. And then he lost it back to Gunther in early June. He also main evented Money in the Bank and teamed with Cody Rhodes to beat Logan Paul and John Cena. And he won that match. Then he lost it to Gunther. So then for Jey after that, what did he do? He was in King of the Ring and he lost. I remember that. He lost in King of the Ring to Cody Rhodes in the semifinals. Money in the Bank was before that, so I already mentioned Money in the Bank. He wasn't in the Money in the Bank ladder match this year because he was headlining that show. He then focused on the Vision with Roman, and he won that. But then he challenged for the championship in that four-way at Clash in Paris. And then he just challenged for the championship again at Saturday Night's Main Event. And the four-way was fun. He didn't factor into the finish at all. He did on Saturday because that match sucked and he had to get pinned by Punk. I would move away from Jey as a world title challenger for a while. There's really not much more for him to accomplish at that level for the foreseeable future. Down the road, could we see him and Cody Rhodes for the WWE title? Sure. But what other matches could we see him do for the World Championship anytime soon that would be worth doing? We just saw him and Punk on Saturday and it sucked. Even when Braun Breaker wins the championship, why would we get that match again after already seeing it like 5 to 6 times? There's no reason for that match to happen again anytime soon. Roman Reigns. I mean, could you do Roman and Jey Uso for the championship? Again, why? There was no reason for it. If Jey finally beats Roman, that's one thing. But Jey would have to be champion again. And Jey's not champion again. He lost on Saturday. He should not get another shot anytime soon. And you can easily have Jey beat Roman in a non-title match. That does not have to be for the belt. So there's other stuff you can do with Jey. It sounds like he's going to be in War Games, so that's his next program, as you called it, his next direction. He can team with Punk, Jimmy, whoever the fuck else, LA Knight, whatever. After that, what would I do with him? I would continue teasing a heel turn. I would not turn Jey Uso heel. I recognize he's popular, and he's good enough to justify the spot that he's in. Booking-wise, I don't think anything is to be gained from him being in the main events for much longer, at least right now. I don't think he's done as a main eventer. Could he win a world championship again down the road? Yes. I do think there's a decent chance of that happening. I would not do it anytime soon. I don't think there's any real reason to have it happen anytime soon. Even if you shipped him over to SmackDown. I think, honestly, I would move Jey away from Roman and Jimmy. Because, like, what more story is there for them to tell? He's already faced Roman a bunch. We've already gotten him and Jimmy. I don't care about either one of those matches. I think it's possible he can end up feuding with either one of them coming out of this angle they're doing right now. I don't give a fuck about that, though. We've already seen it before. So why would I care about that? What else is there for him to do on Raw? He just lost to Punk. He's lost the division a bunch. Honestly, the next thing I would like to see him do is team with Jimmy, put your differences aside, and go after the tag titles. Really, that is the best next thing they can do with Jey Uso. Take a break from the main event picture for a while, step away from the World Championship scene, and go back after the tag titles. A division that could desperately use them. I'm not sure if that's the end game, but that's what I would do. Could they turn the Usos heel? I guess, but like they were just heels 2 years ago, both of them together. I would not fucking turn them heel. I mean, especially while Jey Uso is still as popular as he is. Make them a popular babyface tag team. We have not seen them as a babyface tag team consistently in many, many years. Probably since like 2019 or 2020. Because they were a babyface tag team back in 2023, but for like a month before Jimmy turned on Jey. And they just reunited recently, so I would not turn them heel. And I would have them go after the tag titles. So I agree. WWE should cool the jets for a little while on main event Jey Uso. And I would instead have Jey Uso go back after the tag titles. Even in the IC title picture, I don't really think there's much to be gained with him in that scene at any point in the foreseeable future. Go back after the tag titles for a while, and then we can reevaluate after that. At Pluggo, my boy, _ from Twitter. He said, does my guy Akira Tozawa have a chance to face John Cena in his last match? Feel free to put a percentage on that. There is 0 chance, my friend, unfortunately, of that happening. But we can dream. We can only dream. At Ebagoon91 from Twitter, it looks like there won't be a Hell in the Cell match this year. Not that I'm complaining, he says. What are your thoughts? Great. If there's not reason to do one, then don't do one. This isn't the longest we've gone without one. I think the longest we've ever gone without a Hell in the Cell match was between Mania 39 and Bad Blood last year. That was like a year and a half. It's only been about a year or 14 months, or 13 months actually, since the last one. So we would need to go until like next April in order for us to break that record of the longest we've ever gone without a Hell in the Cell match in WWE since the concept was introduced back in 2000 or 1997. But yeah, if there's no reason to do one, then don't do one. So I like the fact that we're not seemingly getting one this year. They can hold off until it actually matters. How do you think Darby Allin would fare inside Hell in the Cell? At Uwagu said, he would probably end up like Mick Foley doing something insanely fucking stupid. I mean, we're bound to see it in Blood and Guts, right? I mean, how would I think he would fare inside Hell in the Cell? The exact same way he would fare inside Blood and Guts. It's the exact same thing anyway, basically. Your thoughts on Roderick Strong, he asks. Very random, but I think Strong is very talented. He was never going to get beyond a certain level in WWE or AEW. He's just not a great talker. He doesn't have like charisma really at all, but he's a tremendous wrestler. And I think he's fantastic in the ring, and he's had a lot of great matches in AEW, WWE, Ring of Honor. He's a great asset to have in any promotion. Not the guy that you build around. He's a former Ring of Honor world champion, but he's not going to be an AEW world champion or a WWE world champion. I could have seen him as NXT champion, but they kind of missed the boat on that. But he did have a lot of success in NXT. And he's had success so far in AEW as well, which is cool. At millennial_noob, last 2 questions here before we go back to the chat. His first question was, what are your thoughts on the lineup for the Women's Blood and Guts match? To be honest, it's underwhelming, but hopefully on the match. That's what you said. You said hopefully on the match. I don't know what that means. Maybe you meant hopefully not the match will be underwhelming. I don't know. But I like the lineup. I think the lineup's fine. A lot of the women in the Blood and Guts were already feuding anyway. So the people they have in there, they had to replace, I think, Penelope Ford, who got hurt, with Marina Shafir. But beyond that, everyone else in the match makes sense. You got Statlander, Monet, who are already feuding anyway. Harley Cameron, Sisters of Sin, Tekla, Hayter, all those women are in Blood and Guts. It's the perfect match to do. It makes sense. I'm glad they have a story that justifies doing Women's Blood and Guts, and it's not just a random assortment of women. They've all been feuding anyway, so I like the match. And his last question, what are your thoughts on the tournament for who will face John Cena at Saturday night's main event? I hope there's some decent choices in the tournament as well as some fun matches. I agree. I talked about this earlier when someone asked about it here in the chat, but I love the idea. I've heard from plenty of people, including here on the show, that are not fond of the idea, and that's fine. But to me, I think it makes sense that anyone would want to face and beat one of the greatest of all time in their last ever match. And we've never seen anything like this before where they've held a tournament to determine someone's retirement opponent. Having someone just come out and call out Cena, we've seen it plenty of times before. It's cliche. It's tired. Having Gunther just come out and say, I want to retire John Cena, cool. Like, that's not all that innovative. This fills up a month of TV time, gives us some fresh matches, kills time for a month, makes the match feel more important, makes it more unpredictable. I like it a lot. So I'm a fan of it. We'll see who they fill out the tournament with. Like I said earlier, I would include people from TNA, like not all 4 of these people, but at least one. Matt Cardona, to me, would make the most sense because they're going to be in New York anyway, and he can be on that NXT show in a tournament match. Cardona, Nemeth. It could be Cardona and Nemeth in the first round match, honestly. Joe Hendry would also make sense. He's been talking all year about wanting to face John Cena. Them or Jeff Hardy being a bigger name, and he's faced John Cena before, so that would be cool too. And then someone from NXT, Obafemi and or Javon Evans would be cool. Obafemi being in it would be fun, but he would have to win the whole thing. I wouldn't put him in it unless he wins. If it's not Femi, then Javon Evans would make the most sense to me. And then plenty of people from Raw and SmackDown. So it gets some people in the mix that have never faced Cena before, some fresh faces, and then some familiar faces of people he has faced before, like Rusev, like Sheamus, both of whom have beaten Cena before for championships, with championships on the line. So I like the idea of them running it back. They're not going to run it back with Cena at Saturday night's main event, but the idea that they could, you get Gunther in there too. Gunther, I think, should win the whole thing. I think he will win the whole thing. And there's a lot of different directions they can go in from there. So I'm a fan of it. We'll see how they fill out the brackets and what matches they do. I'm sure there's going to be some questionable choices for people included that don't really make sense, but that's WWE in a nutshell, so it is what it is. Maybe a surprise here or there, an upset here or there would be cool. Everyone loves a good tournament, and I think the idea that it's going to be used to determine Cena's final opponent makes that match, like I said earlier, more important and prestigious and exciting and unpredictable. So I'm a fan of it personally. And we will be talking more about that on WrestleRant Radio this Thursday with Mr. Marceau. We will fill out the rest of the bracket. Maybe not their specific matches, but we can list the other 12 people who have not currently been announced for the Cena tournament. We will attempt to predict the rest of the tournament coming up on Thursday's WrestleRant Radio. That is the next time we will be live here on the show. Let's go back to the chat here before we head on out of here in a little bit. See what you guys have said in the chat in the meantime. Let's see. An obvious dream match, original NWO versus The Shield. I mean, I don't know if it's a dream match. I don't know if the match would be great, but that would have been cool, sure. Should daylight savings time be over with forever? What's the point? I agree. If it's just for fucking farmer purposes, Fernando, they should get rid of it. complete waste. I like getting that extra hour of sleep in the fall, and the time traveling where you get to experience the same hour twice. That's crazy, but I like it. Beyond that, the whole thing is kind of pointless. And then it gets darker sooner, which is fucked up. That's always annoying. Johnny said, supermarket fight, Booker T versus Swerve Strickland. Well, for the stuff that Booker has said about Swerve, is that why we would do that match? Fresh Fly said, they should most definitely include Logan Paul in the Vision. I think it can make for entertaining TV. Absolutely fucking not. I disagree. Logan Paul does not need the Vision. The Vision does not need Logan Paul. What would be the point of that? Logan Paul's not really around much anyway. He can be aligned with them, but not in their group. It's kind of a waste to me. Moxley versus Cross in a Texas death match would be great. Yeah, but beyond that, would people really be interested in seeing Cross in a regular role on AEW television? To me, probably not, but just my opinion. Fresh Fly said, bring back Mauro Ranallo. I mean, it wasn't WWE's call to fire him. It was, Mauro quit. They never fired him, so he did quit in 2017, and they got him to come back for NXT. And then he left NXT in 2020. And it was during COVID, and he didn't like the whole live TV aspect, because the whole point of him going to NXT was that he would be able to work like once a month and have a lighter schedule. And then NXT went live, and he stuck on, which was great, but he ended up leaving in 2020. So it would be nice if we can get back Mauro for like a one-off or something. It's been 5 years since he left, which is insane. He's been gone longer than he ever actually worked for the company. Excuse me. He's been gone longer than he's ever actually worked for the company. Excuse me. My nose is like completely like congested. It's because I've been talking for a while without ever... I don't have any water in front of me or anything. I should probably wrap up soon, but... Anyway, what I was trying to say was he has been gone longer from the company than he ever actually worked for the company. So, it's crazy that he's been gone for that long. Mauro's great. He did work that one TNA main event back in 2021 when Omega won the TNA World Championship from Rich Swann. That was cool. He does like boxing, MMA stuff now, I think. But yeah, to hear Mauro again in a regular role would be great. Never going to happen. I think he's done as far as that goes. But for a one-off, I would love to see it. Richie said, Michael Cole is still undefeated at WrestleMania. Technically, you are right. You are not wrong. Fresh Fly said, is there any pay-per-view or match stipulations that we have not seen in a while that you want to see make a return in 2026? Examples, Inferno match or Buried Alive matches, parking lot brawl, whatever. Inferno match, the last one that WWE did with Bray and Randy was not all that great. And Bray and Kane also kind of sucked years ago, so probably not that. Buried Alive is fine. Parking lot brawl, we tend to get that shit anyway, whether it's billed as that or not, so probably not. To me, an Iron Man match. When was the last Iron Man match that we got in WWE? Have we gotten one this year? I feel like it's been years since our last one. AEW did one a year or two ago with MJF and Danielson. That would have been 2 years ago, I think. That match was excellent. I would like the Iron Man match to be brought back to WWE. And they have plenty of people that they could put in it, too. Fresh Fly said, thoughts on Ambrose versus Cena versus AJ Styles in 2016. I recently watched that match. I enjoyed the video package for the match. I also liked the match itself. What did you think about it? Interesting you mentioned it. I randomly got a urge to rewatch that. I love that period of SmackDown. The latter half of SmackDown in 2016 was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It's a great period to be a fan of the Blue Brand. And that whole feud between the three of them going into No Mercy that year was great. And they had a great match, and AJ won clean again, pinning Cena clean again in that triple threat. So I rarely go back and watch old matches. I just don't have time. But I went back on Netflix, the network, or whatever the fuck it was at that point. I think it was on Netflix. I think I used a VPN. I went back and watched that video package and that match. And it's still great all these years later. An underrated triple threat for sure. Maybe I answered a question about that match. I think someone asked me underrated matches from the last 10 years or whatever. And then I named that match. So then I went back and rewatched it and it was great. Zork asking, where is Chatty Daddy? I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. Chad Gable? He's been injured since Mania. Or at least Grande Americano was. Chad Gable, I have no idea. Fernando says, if that Punk story is true, having words about how Taker should dress, who the hell is he to do that? Since he's always instigating stuff backstage and there's the drama with the Elite in AEW, he sounds like a jerk. Talking about Punk, I thought you were shitting on Taker. I don't know. We weren't there for the interaction. Honestly, Punk's, I don't know. I mean, his comments aren't exactly untrue. If John Cena was walking around in fucking shorts, obviously Punk was a bigger star than Cena was a bigger star than Punk at that point. But still, I don't know. I just think that'd be stupid. So, I just think the idea that Punk should be punished for that would be dumb. Punk's not necessarily, he can be a jerk. I think it's just necessarily that he's outspoken in times that he shouldn't be. So I don't think it's really a case of him being an asshole. I think it's more so a case of like the backstage drama. Like he doesn't deal with it. Like he doesn't just, he doesn't deal with it in times that he probably should and keep his mouth shut, even though he might be right. Richie says, as of this writing, none of the highlight videos in WWE's YouTube channel for Raw last night have broken 500,000 views. Seems like fatigue is hitting on the current state of storylines. Yeah, usually that shit is a lot higher. That's kind of interesting. That is something to keep an eye on because they obviously, they care about that sort of stuff. You can talk about attendance numbers and stuff like that, but our social media numbers are still high. Seemingly not. That's obviously an indicator of that and something to keep an eye on. Grunt said, thoughts on Jay White potentially being the guy that beats Page for the title when he gets back? I could also see it being Swerve or Okada once he drops the Unified Championship to Takeshita. Swerve, I don't know if he'll be back anytime soon. I mean, are you talking like a long run for Page? I don't know if he necessarily needs to hold the championship for like 8 months. I wouldn't complain, but I don't know if he needs to. Jay White would be great. We've already seen Jay White and Page so often, though. We've already seen that match like a few times. So Jay White as world champion would be great. I don't see that happening. Swerve versus Page again? Now? Nah. Okada's the only one of the three that you mentioned that I would be like, okay, that's something we haven't seen. I still think it's MJF, though. MJF still has that contract, or he has to announce it a week in advance, but why would they give MJF a title shot at Forbidden Door and have him lose, but still have a contract for a world title match? Unless he cashes it in on someone, whoever beats Page. But like whoever beats Page is probably going to be a heel. So I think it's still going to be MJF who gets that belt back from Page. That's probably the direction they ultimately go in, if I had to take a guess. Richie said, also, will you be attending any of the NXT MSG shows? I might snag tickets for the Trick Ricky Last Man Standing match. No, I will not be going to the NXT MSG show. I will definitely be at Raw at MSG, though, the night before. I will definitely be there for that one. I will not be going to NXT, but the NXT show would also be fun, too. I am still bummed I did not go to that. I mean, I was in New York like a day or two before that NXT show back in March. There was no way I was going anyway. But that Roadblock show earlier this year was fucking awesome and one of the best NXT episodes I've seen in a very long time. I'm bummed I couldn't be there and I didn't attend. I'm probably not going to this one, but Trick and Ricky and Last Man Standing should be good, though. Richie says, seems as though Jay is getting triggered because he knows it's true. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are talking shit about Jay. Some of it isn't really fair, but there are some criticisms. I mean, the people that are completely like shitting on the guy isn't fair. But the criticisms, I think, are valid. The constructive criticisms about Jay not really being like, okay, let's take a break from him in the world title picture. His match on Saturday sucked. Everyone has bad matches, but he should probably not be a guy that's like a perennial main eventer. Let's put it that way. Fernando says, Jay is totally just an entrance and a word. I don't recall people defending a wrestler the way Jey Uso gets defended. I mean, he has his fans. I mean, you say he's just an entrance and a word, but he also has an emotional connection with kids. I have a nephew that fucking loves Jey Uso. He sells a lot of merch. So he might be just a word and an entrance, but he also connects with people, and he had an amazing character arc during the Bloodline days. So it's not like he's just like any random guy that has a word that got over. LA Knight, same thing. He's also just a word in a theme song. But he's a better wrestler than Jay. But he can talk you into the building too. Jey Uso isn't a great talker, but he can cut some great promos when motivated with the right storyline. So I would disagree with that. Do I think Ricochet made the right choice? Zork asked. Yes. If he stayed in WWE, he would have been in the exact same fucking spot he had been in for the last 5 years before that, as a mid-carder on the show. And it's a fine role for him to be in, but he had already been the Intercontinental Champion. He had already been the United States Champion. They were not looking to turn him heel, which would have been interesting. They were not looking to do anything different with him than they had already done. So it was a great idea for him to leave, get some fresh opponents, new storylines to do, turning heel in AEW. He's still kind of a mid-carder in AEW, but he's gotten some bigger matches. He's been on most of their pay-per-views this year. He beat Swerve at one point. He had a pay-per-view match with him. He's faced Mark Briscoe on pay-per-view, Bobby Lashley's crew on pay-per-view. I think he's been better booked in AEW so far this year than at any other point in WWE in the last 5. Since he left NXT, probably. Love the Love Ziggler badges there from Richie. Those are well appreciated. Richie also saying thoughts on Shelton Benjamin, saying he still wants to win a major world title. Am I the only one who thinks he's Delulu and knows that he's not main event material? Listen, Shelton is great. Shelton's had a great run in AEW. He's not fucking winning the AEW World Championship, nor should he. I don't even see Shelton Benjamin at this point being a Ring of Honor World Champion. I think he's good enough. I mean, Grunt literally just said just there, he said, Shelton should absolutely win the Ring of Honor title at some point. That title promotion fits him like a glove. Yeah, but he's also fucking 50. Like, Shelton is old enough where he's great, where I feel like he's great in the role that he's in AEW. Push him enough. Like, if he was in AEW, like, if he was in Ring of Honor on his own, cool. But, like, while they're doing the Hurt Syndicate thing, I mean, Ring of Honor at this point means nothing. So, if you want to put the Ring of Honor title on him, sure, I'd be okay with that. Shelton has not worked a single Ring of Honor match since he's been back in AEW. I don't think he wants to. I think he's better than that. Ring of Honor is a fucking joke. I mean, let's be honest. That belt doesn't even mean anything. So, but to Grunt's point, if he is going to win a world championship, it's going to be that one. It is not the AEW World Championship. There are at least 15 different people, minimum, that I would put that world title on in AEW before Shelton Benjamin, including his own partner, Bobby Lashley. Johnny says, how do you think a Nia Jax versus Prime Awesome Kong would have been? I mean, Nia Jax currently, not Nia Jax 10 years ago. That match probably would have sucked. With Nia Jax currently, or Nia of last year versus Prime Awesome Kong, it would have been a fun match, I think. I think it would have been a fun, like, battle of the, I don't know if behemoths is an appropriate word, with all due respect. But with the respective sizes, I feel like that would have been a fun Monster Mash type of match. So that might have been good. It also could have been terrible. I feel like that match would either be really good or really bad. Johnny also said, how do you feel about these no-compete clauses for independent contractors? The whole thing is fucking stupid. Andrade's also at fault. We talked about this on WrestleRant Radio already, so I'll keep it brief here. But like Andrade, how the fuck did he not know that he had a non-compete? I mean, how did he not know that? Did he not read the contract? Did Tony Khan not look into it before he put him on his television show? I mean, that's his own fault for getting that wrong. But for WWE to say, hey, you can't do anything wrestling-wise. Maybe wrestle on TV. If it's wrestling on TV, then I get it. But if he can't wrestle, period, for a year because of that, and he can't make any money, that's just crazy. Is the guy supposed to go fucking broke or something? Like, that's just weird to me. So, the Samantha Irvin thing was weird, too. Like, they granted her release, but she can't work, I guess, in wrestling for 2 years. Was she that unhappy in WWE where she wanted to leave? I imagine there has to be some other story there. There has to be. I saw Sean Ross Sapp say that, and I'm like, I'm thinking I would hope so. Was she that unhappy in WWE where she was like, I quit. I would rather not make money in wrestling for 2 years than be here for the next 4 or 5 years. I don't know. It was just, that whole situation was weird, too. But the whole non-compete thing sucks. It's stupid. It will not change, though. There was a chance it could have gotten pushed into the government, like they could have done something about it, but it sounds like that's not going to be the case anymore. Richie said, Morrow is now doing commentary for Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling. Well, there you go. I forgot about that. That's Scott D'Amore's promotion. Johnny said, how about Rhea versus Stephanie in a 60-minute Iron Woman match? Maybe. That might be a good match. I think that's going to be a great match regardless, but at a 60-minute Iron Man match, Iron Woman match, I don't know about those two specifically, but the match could be good. Zork, I don't know what you mean by your Batista John Cena question. You'd have to reword that. The way that it's worded as it is doesn't make sense. Grunt said there's also the story of Punk throwing a tantrum during a 2010 house show and wouldn't tag Jericho in during a tag match because him and Edge were watching the Canadian versus U.S. Olympics hockey game after, or earlier rather. Oh yeah, Loki forgot that he had that. I remember those two Punk stories. Jericho and Edge have talked about that before. Punk does not, he wears his emotions on his sleeve. He wears his heart on his sleeve and gets angry very easily. Like, honestly, the stuff that he gets annoyed over probably isn't all that unjustified. He just, at least used to, get annoyed a lot easier very quickly when he should probably assess the situation and approach it differently instead of just automatically getting fucking pissed. At least to the degree that he did. Emmanuel said, random question, but remind me. Do you remember if you saw the 2008 WWE Draft live when it happened? Was the Jim Ross-Michael Cole swap ever significant to you? Yes, I did watch that live. That fell on my last day of school when I was in 7th grade in 2008. So I was very excited for that show. I had just started watching wrestling a few months earlier. So the idea of a draft and whatnot was really exciting to me. I thought that was awesome. The Jim Ross-Michael Cole thing was cool. When I watched it live, I'm like, oh, fuck, like, commentators can switch too. Like, that's awesome. Like, it's random, even though it's not. I thought the McMahon $1 Million Mania set falling on top of Vince was real. At least for a little bit, I thought that was real. That is how much of a... I didn't think wrestling was real, but I thought that was real. And that's how much of a mark I was back then. But anyway, I did watch that show live. I remember JR and Michael Cole swapping spots, and I thought it was cool. I didn't know they were doing that to rib Jim Ross until probably years later. I wasn't really privy to that for a while. Grunt said Shelton... I already mentioned that. Fernando said, which arena did you attend your first Mania in? Camping World Stadium in Orlando. Mania 33 was my first one in 2017. So it was a shitty-ass stadium. The arena, the area around the stadium sucked. That was a shitty-ass stadium. And the Mania was okay. I mean, the Hardy Boys coming back was fun. I thought it was a good Mania. Had some bad, had some good. I enjoyed the show overall. And being there was amazing. But yeah, it was Camping World Stadium in Orlando. I don't know if it's still called that. But that's where I attended my first Mania. Grunt said, if PCO can win the Ring of Honor World title, Shelton Benjamin should 100%. I mean, PCO should not have won the Ring of Honor World title. Ring of Honor also meant more when PCO was champion a few years ago than currently. Shelton is a bigger star than Ring of Honor. He just is. Like, even when Claudio held it, that was cool. Ring of Honor meant more 3 years ago than it does in 2025. That belt, that brand means nothing. Bandito being champion is cool. I guess if Bandito can hold it, so can Shelton, because Bandito's a decent level star in AEW, so is Shelton. So I guess it's possible. I really just don't care. Like, Shelton winning the belt would really not mean much to me at all. Anyone honestly at this point winning the belt from Bandito wouldn't mean anything, just because the belt itself doesn't really mean anything. Although Bandito himself is great. Fernando says, do you think maybe Triple H buried Theory because he was Vince McMahon's chosen one and he thought he was bad for business? Yeah, I think that was honestly part of it. Where he didn't really see in Theory what Vince McMahon did, so he immediately de-pushed him. He did push him a little bit there in late 2022, early 2023. Enough to give him a match with John Cena at WrestleMania. But yeah, I mean, clearly he did not see the same in Theory that Vince did. And that is why he treated him the way that he did and still treats him the way that he does to this day, because he does not see him as a top star, right or wrong. That's how he feels. Clearly, without saying it, that is very evident based on the booking. If he thought Theory was some sort of a star in the making or a potential future world champion, he would not be teaming with Grayson Waller for 2 fucking years without actually splitting up on television. Zork said, do you think Shelton Benjamin believes he should be world champ? Obviously, he believes he should be world champ. Do I think he should be? In AEW, absolutely not. Ring of Honor, sure, but like, at this point, anyone could be Ring of Honor world champion, and it wouldn't really matter. Will Stephanie McMahon ever wrestle again? Definitely not. The only match he has wrestled, I think, in the last 15 years was that Mania 34 for the Ronda match, and that's it. And the only reason she was even in that match was because they had their interaction at Mania 3 years earlier. And she was a good foil for Ronda to get, Stephanie could get booed easily. Ronda could get cheered against Ronda easily, or booed, whatever. Ronda could get cheered against Stephanie easily. I don't think she's wrestled otherwise before or after that. Within the last 15 plus years, I might be wrong on that. I'd have to go check. But no, there's no reason for her to wrestle again anyway. Is Charlie, what's his name? Haas. Charlie, I thought you didn't put it there because you didn't capitalize it, but you said, is Charlie Haas Shelton's greatest partner? I mean, they are the world's greatest tag team, but in all seriousness, he would probably have to be. Shelton really hasn't had that many partners. He teamed with Charlie Haas for a while. They broke up, reunited a few years later, reunited a few years after that on the independent scene and in Ring of Honor. Who else has Shelton really even teamed with? Bobby and Cedric? I mean, they were all great together. Shelton and Bobby and Shelton and Cedric, but Charlie Haas and Shelton were a great fucking team. I mean, so was the Hurt Business / Syndicate, but I would say even more so, especially while Shelton was in his prime, the world's greatest tag team. So I would say Charlie Haas is Shelton's, in my opinion, greatest partner. Zork said, why doesn't Cena not catch more flack for the fake Nikki proposal? I mean, does he not catch? People don't give a fuck now, but he's caught flack. I mean, that whole proposal thing was a complete waste of time. Knowing that they did not end up getting married, I mean, it was a real proposal, I think, but did he propose for real elsewhere? I don't know what was going on there, but I don't know if that was ever explained. But they ended up breaking up a year later anyway. So people look back at that Mania between Taker retiring and Goldberg retiring as kind of a black mark, because a lot of what happened on that show did not end up mattering. A lot of that shit they ended up going back on years later anyway. It was kind of a waste of time. So Cena's caught flack for it. People look back on it and laugh, but it's been so many years that people don't even really think about it anymore. I only just brought it up earlier because we were talking about whatever, but we were talking about something similar on that subject. But that fake proposal, I mean, it was a nice moment in the moment, but they ended up breaking up a year later or so. It really did not end up mattering at all. Fernando, will Vince McMahon attend Stephanie's Hall of Fame induction? I'm not going to say he will, but by that point, TKO might be starting to slowly ease him back into the picture, thinking they might catch less flack for that than they would have this year or the year before. I'm going to say no. If he wasn't at Triple H's, and I know Stephanie's his daughter, Triple H is his son-in-law, not the same thing. Similar, but not the same thing. If he wasn't at Triple H's, I'm going to say no. I know more time has passed. It is more likely that he could be there than for Triple H's, because that's his daughter, and a year has passed since everything's happened. Another year, that is. I'm still going to say no. Vince does not end up being at Stephanie's Hall of Fame induction, nor does he need to be, because I feel like that's what I don't really care about Stephanie going into the Hall of Fame anyway, but I feel like all the conversation, the attention, the buzz will be around Vince being there and not the induction or the speech. You also have fans there too, so what if they boo or something or cheer for Vince and say, oh, welcome back, Vince, or whatever the fuck? Yeah, no thanks. Favorite WWE wedding? Oh, God. Definitely not Bobby Lashley and Lana. I was there for that one on Raw back in 2019 with Mr. Marceau. We still joke about that to this day. A terrible show and a terrible wedding. That shit sucked. Best wedding? Honestly, the one that comes to mind, maybe Indy Hartwell and Dexter Lumis's from NXT back in 2021, right before the whole NXT 2.0 shit happened. I think it was actually right when it happened. It was on that first show that they did the wedding. But that was a fun wedding. That whole angle was really well done. It was entertaining. And the payoff was great. No real aftermath, but that was one of the few WWE weddings that wasn't actually garbage. And that actually ended up being kind of entertaining. So I might actually go with the Indy Hartwell, Dexter Lumis one from 2019 or 2021 rather, on NXT. And that's going to do it, guys. We are about 3+ hours in here out of the show. 3:16, actually. Give me a hell yeah. So we will wrap it up here for a very long stream. This has been fun, though. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. As always, this has been great. We will be back live again on Thursday for WrestleRant Radio. Myself and Mr. Marceau breaking down Saturday night's main event, Raw as well for Monday, John Cena's final opponent, and some other news and notes from the world of wrestling. I don't think there's a pay-per-view this weekend. So no predictions until next week. Full Gear's in 2 weeks. We have Blood and Guts next week. We won't do predictions for that. But that's coming up next week on Dynamite. But yeah, we have a lot to discuss on WrestleRant Radio this Thursday, so check back in for that on Thursday afternoon, morning, whatever it might be. Just keep your notifications on, and you'll be notified when we go live on Thursday for that. Until then, though, I want to shout out the channel members as always. Alexis, Miss Mon Matthews, Dillon, DiGiacomo, Mrs. Renee, DJ Swerve1, at Swerve1 on IG, Daniel Malcolm, at I'm Quarter on X, Mr. Marceau, at RJ_Marceau on X, John Ritland, Real Honesty with John Ritland right here on YouTube, Richie, Red Planet Wrestling right here on YouTube as well, and Average Grunt, at gruntwrestling.bluesky.social on Blue Sky. Be sure to sign up to become a WrestleRant All Access Pass channel member here today to get a badge next to your name here in the chats. You get access to certain badges in the live streams as well. Shout outs at the beginning and end of every single live stream that we do here on the channel. Early and ad-free access to certain videos and so much more. Would greatly appreciate the support. But at the very least, be sure to like this video and subscribe. Like I said earlier, hit that notification bell to be notified every single time we go live here on the channel and every single time we upload new content. If you want to send in a question to the show, you can do so by tweeting me on the Twitter machine at WrestleRant with the hashtag AskGSM on X. Find me on Facebook as well at facebook.com/graham.gsm.matthews. Include a question on the post that I usually put up on Monday nights, if not on the wall itself. And last but certainly not least, include your question down below in the comment section on this very video. I'll include your question in next week's edition. All right, guys, this has been great. Fernando said, should Nikki Bella interfere and cost Cena his last match as storyline payback for dumping her? That would be fucking hilarious. That is not happening, but that would be funny. Definitely not happening, but it would be funny. Thank you, Fernando, Zork, Grunt, Johnny, everyone from earlier as well that was here joining us for today's video, even if it was popping in for a quick second. Von Tell, Alexis was here earlier as well. Noob, Richie. Appreciate all you fine folks for making the show possible and joining us every single Tuesday for a fun 3-hour-ish live stream. So, like I said, guys, we'll see you right back here on Thursday for an all-new WrestleRant Radio. I'll also throw this up one more time. Bam! Or point in the wrong direction. This right here. WrestleRant shirt available right now on ProWrestlingTees.com/WrestleRant. Get the shirt. We have the shirt available this month all the time at Pro Wrestling Tees. We have this shirt, a Christmas shirt, Halloween shirt. This month marks 15 years of WrestleRant as a brand, website, channel, whatever. So check out the shirt now. It will be on sale, I'm almost positive, during Black Friday season in a couple of weeks. So catch it while it's on sale. Support the show. Send me a picture of you wearing the shirt or let me know that you have the shirt. And I will shout you out here on the show, follow you on social, whatever it might be. So anyway, guys, have an awesome one. I'm Graham GSM Matthews. We'll catch you right back here on Thursday for another all-new episode of WrestleRant Radio. And until then, I got to go see Back to the Future in a few hours. So take care, folks. I'll catch your ass down the road.